One of my goals has always been to bring science and the paranormal together. Paranormal is just science undiscovered or misunderstood.
Every time I keep asking how good can it get, this prompts the participatory universe to provide us with answers that we genuinely do want to live the answer to.
Hello, my name is Christopher Anetra. You know me as the Quantum Businessman.
And I say, you know what? I don't need to know where I'm headed. I thought I knew where I was headed before and I didn't end up there. So why worry about where I'm headed? Why not just accept this now moment, trust that whatever guided me here with you guys that I feel is divine is going to continue to guide me.
The content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe place to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regards to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. IMEC, or International Mandela Effect Conference, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization designed to support ongoing Mandela Effect research. To learn more about IMEC, please go to imec.world.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and I'm glad to have you guys here today for the International Mandela Effect Conference Open Tables, Season 4, episode, I think we're at 9 now. We're getting up there. We're almost done, ladies and gentlemen, with this season. It's insane. But of course, this month's episode is now arriving in reality number. Lord knows we have went through a number of realities and there's been a big shift lately and we're here to talk about it, but I can't do this alone, ladies and gentlemen. I've got an incredible team of people behind me and I'm going to bring them on now. First, we have Miss Cynthia Sue Larson of realityshifters.com. Good to see you, Cynthia.
Great to be here, Jerry. Hello, everybody.
Next up, we have Shane Robinson of Unbiased and On the Fence. How you doing, Shane?
Doing wonderful. Good to be here.
Glad to have you, my friend. And last but not least, you know him as the Quantum Businessman. Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Anetra.
Hey, everybody.
Did I say the name right, Chris?
Anetra, yes.
Anetra. There we go. Well, I get a lot of requests. I've noticed this. Every month we have somebody mentioning the name. So can we go over this one more time?
No. I have the same thing happening to me. It's like a Mandela effect. You pronounce your name differently. So the way I'm pronouncing it is not really a Mandela effect. I decided to make it more authentic, the way you would say it in Italiano from Sicily. So yeah, and I was corrected by someone from Italy and said, don't say Anatra. That's so American. Your name is Anetra. So for me, it's the whole concept that, you know, we're like actors on a stage in this Truman Show, and our birth certificate name is actually like the name of us as an actor. And believe it or not, I know a lot of people want to change their name, but believe it or not, we chose our own name, I believe. So, oh no, my parents came up with my name, but I believe that actually we helped implant that idea into them to know what they would call us. So, but it's not a Mandela effect. I'm just saying it a little bit differently so it's more authentic to my script name. That's all. Thanks for.
I appreciate that. We've had it in the mailbag literally every month, and I didn't put it in there this month because we've covered it a number of times.
I get it. I get it all the time too. So I continue. Every time I post a video, I get questions about that. So
excellent. So I'm glad we got that covered. I wanted to go ahead and get that out of the way real quick, but we've got a great show for you folks today. Let's go ahead and pull the slide deck real quick, and we've got board member updates, of course, to start the month off. See how everybody's been doing this incredible month, followed by the Bajau people. I looked this up yesterday. I think it's Bajau people. Who are they? Are they new? They're new to me. Sunflower colors. You heard that right, folks. Colors. Teddy bear flowers. What is a teddy bear flower? Now, this sounds interesting. followed by Vanilla Blues. What in the world could that be? Heart Movement. Is the heart on the move again, ladies and gentlemen? We'll find out shortly. Multiverse movies. What are they trying to tell us? Followed by airline mergers. There's a certain Mandela effect that has been spotted, at least by one person. We'll get into that, as well as Mandanimal sponsors, and last but not least, the mailbag and Q&A. So we've got a great show for you guys this month. I can't wait to present all of these incredible topics to you guys. But first and foremost, we've got the board member updates, of course. Find out how our incredible team has been doing this month, starting with the one and only Cynthia Sue Larson of realityshifters.com.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I've recently come back from a brief trip to Boulder, Colorado, where I was doing a show for Open Minds with Regina Meredith, talking again about the Mandela Effect. So you can look forward to that coming out in a few months, maybe December. Seems like the time period that it might air. And while I was there, I had talked a little bit. I did a video. I hiked up a mountain because my ability to hike is getting better. I'm getting a little bit more athletic again after various things have happened over the last few years, which I think I've talked about that before. So I did a short video on the topic of NPCs and enlightenment and operators and things. And that's also something that we talked about in the green room this month. So people can check that out if you're at Patreon and hear about all four of us discussing it. Otherwise, you can just check out my video that's on my channel, Cynthia Sue Larson. And it's very interesting because the whole topic of NPCs, non-player characters, is pretty similar to what schizophrenics noticed, or at least this schizophrenic, Barbara O'Brien. I'm going to hold up a very ancient book from 1958. This is the paperback. And it's called Operators and Things. Barbara O'Brien is a pseudonym. It's a nom de plume. And so what she was describing and documenting is her own descent into schizophrenia, and then fortunately her recovery from schizophrenia 6 months later. And in the process, she encountered lots of interesting things, too much for me to talk about, but that's why I did a 22-minute video, and that's why we talked about it again with the insights from all four of us. So definitely want to check that out if you're one of our Patreon supporters. Otherwise, check out my video. And then I've got my newsletter. So just the usual stuff going on. It's all good. Things are good.
And I would definitely highly suggest everyone go over to realityshifters.com. Sign up for that newsletter. It is definitely a breath of fresh air to receive in your email every month. Full of wonderful, wonderful stories. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for the update. That book, you mentioned that is possibly free, correct?
Yes, I think the copyright or whatever that is has expired, so it's been out long enough, and it's surely mostly out of print. However, you can get a reprint of it, like hardcover, if you're like me and you want to thumb through this book regularly pretty often, because there's nothing else quite like it. This is one of those all-time classic books, believe it or not. If you're interested in things like NPCs, the Mandela Effect, the kind of stuff we're interested in, then this book is probably right up your alley. If you're wondering what is an NPC and what does it look like to someone who is maybe a shaman or someone who's gone in and out of schizophrenia, then you get to see this hidden world, which is very interesting.
That is fascinating because I've known people who have dealt with that, and that's always been very intriguing to me. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check that out. Next up, we have Christopher Anatra, the quantum businessman. How has your month been, sir, as we are all gearing up for this amazing conference coming up?
Yeah, so my month has been very, very busy. I was able to put out my second part of a video series called Mechanics of the Matrix. Part 2. I put out part 1 probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I just finally posted part 2. And yeah, so many people that have been watching it, you guys have had like very, very kind comments, and I really appreciate that. Covered a lot of different ground. Talked about something called the Mannheim Effect, which is based upon a Star Trek series, a Star Trek episode where they were doing time and gravity experiments that were causing timelines to start shifting and looping back onto each other. I talk more about linear time and how that works. I talk about how our DNA is actually the shape of a fractal antenna. It's a fractal globule. A lot of times people think our DNA, in their mind, they think of the double helix, but in reality, it's a ball, and how it's always receiving and transmitting. It's like a transceiver antenna, and how it's rendering our avatar. I can go into all different types of information, talk about the solar flares and how they're assisting in upgrading our body from carbon-based to crystalline and so forth. So if you haven't watched it, definitely give it a watch. I think it'll be very thought-provoking as I give more puzzle pieces to the way the reality works. I've just started working on my next presentation, which is I'm calling Act 12, the Earth Game. And that's also going to be featured as my IMEC presentation. And I'll be getting into some far out concepts with how the Earth Game works that a lot of people may not have realized before. Again, just puzzle pieces, see what resonates and what doesn't. But then it starts to explain more of how this reality works. So I'm excited about that. So between now and November, I'm pretty busy, just like everybody else here. So a lot on our plate, and very excited about what we're doing. So thank you, everybody that supports me and watches my videos and gives them a like. I appreciate it so much.
So I don't normally have a lot of time on my hands. I did have a chance to watch the mechanics of the Matrix. I was really impressed by that series, Chris. I got to say, I really, really have enjoyed that.
Cool. Thank you. And I brought out some Mandela effects in there, like the Woodstock Mandela effect that a lot of Woodstock people remembered happening in 1968, but it actually happened a month after the moon landing in 1969. So there's that, the year seems to be off, and how it was rained out. Like all of the acts had to perform really, really late at night when it stopped raining. And now in this timeline, there's the famous "No More Rain" chant, and people were sliding down hills and mud was everywhere. And in my old timeline, I remember like everyone being thirsty. Like it was so hot, there wasn't enough water, people weren't getting hydrated, people were passing out. And now in this timeline, it's the opposite. There's too much water. So, yeah, but all kinds of interesting things. Thank you, Jerry.
I appreciate it, Chris. That was a great episode. Yeah, that Woodstock one's weird.
It's weird.
I've heard a lot about that Woodstock one. Now I remember the mud myself. I remember it being rainy and nasty and muddy and
that's okay. That's how these things work, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But what's strange is like the dry thing, like that sounds familiar to me. You know what I mean? I don't remember it, but it sounds so familiar.
That's a good point, because a lot of us are becoming more multidimensional. So we're starting to remember the different timelines, and it's confusing. Like I remember it being hot and dry, but I also remember it being muddy and wet. So yeah, it's this show that we're growing.
Now, Shane, I do apologize. Let me stop right here. We were speaking of some ascension symptoms earlier in our discussion in the green room. I just thought about this. Have you guys, and maybe you guys in the chat have had, it kind of reminds me of the Philip K. Dick where he says you unconsciously do something as if it had been that way. I've noticed in the past month, I've unconsciously done a couple things and been like, wait, why did I do that? Like it was a natural movement for me at the time when it should not have been. Am I crazy? Like, do you guys know what I'm saying? Am I the weird one?
Are you talking about little things like the light switch? You're like, why did I reach over there when it's...
yeah,
that sort of thing.
Whether it be a light switch or something at work or just, random situations. But yeah, the light switch situations. Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Where it's more like muscle memory. It's like, why did my muscle memory do something it shouldn't have remembered doing? Right?
Yes. I've noticed it a number of times this month.
Yeah. And I had a really weird one too with, I talk about it later. I told you guys about this too with Jordan Maxwell.
Yes.
Yeah, I can mention that too. But like reality doesn't seem to be these timeline shifts are getting more intense.
And that the day that you mentioned it was the day that there was that big event currently happening over at CERN with the Large Hadron Collider.
CERN's birthday party.
Yes, yeah. the same exact day that you were noticing epic timeline shifts.
Yeah, exactly. And if you guys don't mind, I could say what the Jordan Maxwell thing is real fast.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
seeing as I brought it up. But basically, a lot of people know who Jordan Maxwell is. You know, he talks about religions and the occult and how all these things are tied in with the governments and so forth. He does a lot of revealing about how the reality works. I remember
Symbolism and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, the symbols, exactly. Talks about Freemasonry. He actually talks a lot about Jehovah's Witnesses too. I didn't realize that, but he was a Jehovah's Witness. So when he starts talking about that, because I was one as well, I know exactly what he's talking about. But basically, I was listening to one of his shows, and he was talking about the pandemic. And I was like, wait, I remember I had a friend who was also kind of like a mentor to me for a little while, who had a channel on YouTube. He'd get a lot of views, like maybe 5,000 to 10,000 views per each of his videos he would release. And he was telling me back in 2018 that he was sorry because he always wanted to interview Jordan Maxwell, but he had already passed. And so when I was listening to this video, I hear Jordan Maxwell talk about the pandemic and, the symbology of masks and so forth. And I'm like, how could that be? And I checked the video, and it was from 2021. And then I'm like, is Jordan Maxwell still alive? And I checked, and at the time when I checked, it said that he had passed away on March 23rd of 2023. So 3/23/23. Because I'm always looking at numbers, and I'm like, what a prolific date for him to die. Like, that was definitely a power date. And then 10 minutes later, I check again. Sometimes I check to see if Betty White's still alive, because, how many times has she died and always come back? I checked again, and then the date of his death went exactly a year before, to March 23rd, 2022. And I'm like, how does this, like the Easter Island thing that happened to me with the number of statues? Like, how does this keep happening to me? But I saw all the 2 3s and 2 3s. Like, I remember that. I checked back again, and then it was March 23rd of 2022. So there's interesting things going on. Anyone else that has these things, you're not going crazy. It's just you're literally witnessing timeline shifts as they're happening.
I agree, Chris. You're not going crazy. That I can validate, because having been a person like you guys who have lived through this, knowing you're not the only one experiencing it, you're not going crazy. That I can guarantee. Speaking of crazy, my good crazy friend here, Shane Robinson of Unbiased and On the Fence. How has your month been, my friend?
Going really good. Yeah, I'll chime in with the Jordan Maxwell thing. So you remembered it being just as it is right now, like he died in 2022, 2023. You can't be sure, right, Jerry?
So yeah, right in that time frame. It was just a few years ago. It hasn't been very long at all.
Okay, so my experience was I came across an interview where I think the person was saying, like, this is the last interview with Jordan Maxwell before he passed away. And I watched that interview. And when I first saw it, I was thinking, wait a minute, I thought he had already passed away. So I'm kind of in between you and Chris. So like I kind of like had this moment Chris is having, like when that interview got released, which, in that interview, he said it was his last one. So I was just finding out of him dying more recently. But in my mind, I thought he had died back in the teens sometimes, 16, 17.
Yeah, exactly. 16, 17.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a really wild one. Yeah, so for me, my month has been really busy. I've been doing a lot of private things in the music and sound design category and doing sessions with people. And of course, so excited about this upcoming event coming up in November where I get to see so many of you guys there. That's going to be really fun. So other than that, that's the main things I have on my plate right now. Not a lot. I've been really just having to really like go through this molasses, like we were talking in the green room about. Some of these energies can feel really heavy at times. And if it gets too heavy and I can take a nap, I'll just do that, for an hour or two. And then, so my sleep schedule's been all over the place. I was up to like 3 a.m. last night because I took like only a 30-minute nap, but I felt so energized by the time it was time to go to bed, and today it's feeling thick again. So I've been on kind of a roller coaster ride with the energies and really just trying to flow with them instead of fighting them too much. But yeah, some days it's pretty hard to, force yourself through, but you got to get stuff done. So yeah, and other than that, you can find me at uotf.net. That will be the hub where you can connect to my YouTube channel on Unbiased and On the Fence, or any of the other things I do.
Excellent. Make sure you guys go over to UOTF Net. Make sure you get signed up over there, and whatever goodies Shane has to offer on that side, I'm sure they're abundant. They always are.
Appreciate that, Jerry. And what's been up for your month, Jerry?
My month's been busy, very, very busy. I've been working a lot. I do restaurant work, so we've been pretty steady over there with football season, whatnot, starting up. Mainly just getting ready for this amazing conference we got coming up here in November. So excited for that coming up, working with the hotel and working with you guys, of course, and trying to get everybody on board and let everybody know that we have this amazing conference coming up. We've got great speakers. We've got hotel rooms available, just so much going on that I've been trying to work behind the scenes to keep going, I guess, keep steady. So as you see here, we've got Lee Allen Bogus, Bill McKenna, Liz Larson, Christopher Anitra, Pippa Ona, Dr. Charles Labedo. I'm really excited for Dr. Charles personally. I'm excited for all of them, don't get me wrong. Trish Lesage, Shane Robinson, our good buddy, unbiased and on the fence here, Natasha Sankovich, Cynthia Sue Larson, of course, of realityshifters.com, another great friend here, and Candace Craw Goldman. So Candace Craw Goldman, and of course, Christopher Anatra, a great friend here. Candace Craw Goldman worked with Dolores Cannon directly. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, for years.
So this is huge, ladies and gentlemen. Between Bill McKenna, Liz Larson, and Candace Craw Goldman, like, how could you not go to this conference, right? Like, these are huge names. These are people that even I myself am going to be kind of fanboying over a little bit. I'm a little in awe of this. Not gonna lie, you get to see Jerry fanboy a little bit, but only if you show up. See, you got to show up in person to see that. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot coming up. I've been doing a lot on the ground, trying to get things ready for you guys, trying to get deals for you guys, trying to find out what I can get around the city to really help you guys out and have a good time here. We do have some stuff going up on our website, if it isn't there already, about things to do here in Nashville besides the Mandela Effect Conference. There's a lot of stuff here in Nashville to do. Plus, it's country music. It's music. How many music Mandela effects are there? Like, this is your chance to do your deep research, folks. This is the place. But that's been my month. It's been mainly just working my main job and trying to get ready for this incredible conference coming up with you guys. And of course, this is the one time of the year that all four of us actually get to be together in the same room at the same time. Once a year, every year, and I can't tell you guys, just as a team, how much I look forward to that.
Me too. Yeah, it's super special.
Yeah, and for all of you guys that are coming, we're going to have emails coming out directly to you guys that have already bought tickets with information as well. So be looking out for that.
And okay, so Lost Island says, I wish I knew about the conference earlier to be a speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I would suggest if you want to be a speaker for next year, go ahead and apply now. That way we already have a working list for next year to know when we start next year, reaching out to people where to start at. If you've got suggestions, please email them to us, team@imec.world. Thank you, producer. That is perfect timing. She's so good.
She's a psychic, isn't she?
She really is. But team@imec.world. Email us those suggestions. If you or you know somebody who is interested in being a speaker, we would love to hear from you for next year. So we're always looking to the future, trying to get ready for the next round. So I would love to hear from you guys. We do apologize for those that got missed this year. We have heard from a couple people that were like, I wanted to be a speaker. We're so sorry it closed out already. But again, next year we are, of course, going to do this again every year. So we would love to hear what you guys have to say. Make sure you email us once again with that information. And let's get this party started. Lost Island says they'll apply for next year. Perfect. See, this makes it so much easier when we get started planning for next year. We know exactly where to start then, right? We aren't going, hey, who are we going to talk to? Who are we going to get, right? But speaking of get, looks like we have got a shift in the last month or so, and it looks to be a pretty big one, at least in my opinion. So let's see what all we have dug up and uncovered this month between the teams and myself. The Bajau people, I think it's Bajau or Bajau people. These guys, I gotta say, have really intrigued me. Check this out, folks. You might be intrigued too. They live in the middle of the sea. And I mean that literally. They live in the middle of the sea. They rarely go on land. They have no nationality. They have no fixed home, no money. And they go spearfishing without scuba gear, not even oxygen tanks. These guys can hold their breath for something like 13 minutes underwater. Scroll down a little bit, if you would. I'm not sure if there's more to that or not. Okay, I wasn't sure if there was or not. Next slide. Then I do believe I had 2 slides on these, didn't I? Yes. Known as sea nomads. They live on boats or ocean dwellings. They have no calendars, no clocks, no birthdays, no nothing like this. They were first discovered in 1521. So this isn't a new discovery, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't just find these people yesterday or 2 weeks ago. Surprise, there's a new water tribe, right? No, these guys were found in 1521, which is curious that we've never heard of them before. They've evolved differently than other humans. They can dive to depths more than 200 feet below the surface. Thanks to having a much bigger spleen that works like a scuba tank. They can hold their breath for over 13 minutes, allowing them to walk across the seabed hunting fish. I'm going to repeat that because it sounded just like crazy. Yes, they are able to walk across the bottom of the waterway hunting fish. The Bajau people. I don't know about you guys. This is quite new to me. What's up, team?
Totally new to me. When I saw this, I was blown away because I thought, first of all, how have I never heard about this before? This is so outrageous, so amazing, so special, so unique that I would expect that there should have been TV shows about it, books about it. It should have come up in science class somewhere in high school or college, certainly. I even studied islands and oceans in college at UC Berkeley. Nothing like this ever came up. I've never heard of this. And I've heard of weird things like the Sargasso Sea and where the sea turtles go and hang out on these little, I've heard very weird things. This should have been included. It was not. And I've even, as a child, I was touring through much of the oceans in visiting islands with my parents. My parents had a big thing to go to places before they changed, before they became Americanized. So we would go to places that had never seen Americans, that had never seen white people, who certainly didn't speak English. That was our big thing. I've never heard of this. So I'm just blown away. And it's amazing. I'd love to hear if anyone watching in the comments has ever heard of these people, the Bajau. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Right.
Brand new for me.
Where's Nat Geo? Like, you would think there would be full documentaries on these people, right?
Yeah. Magazines, movies, everything. Yeah, right.
You know, what's interesting too is what they do is they intentionally rupture their eardrums so that they're not affected by pressure changes in the water. So they can do a deep dive and go down and come back up, and they're not going to experience pain that we normally would have. So they really are like merpeople of the planet. You know,
Yes.
They love being on the water. They must have a connection to merpeople because just the way they behave. They intentionally rupture their eardrums so that they could be better swimmers and so forth. They say they do that usually when they're a teenager. So you have very fascinating people. Absolutely.
Yeah, merpeople is the word for it. That's very fitting. Because walking around on the sea floor for 13 minutes at a time.
How could that be? 13 minutes. That's incredible.
Wow. That's huge.
I can't hold my breath past 30 seconds. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, do not try this in your regular pools, people, because this could be dangerous. Yeah, this is not something to mess with. They have different genetics, right? So these are literally
Spleen
different.
is much, much larger, which allows for aeration of the blood much more differently than a standard human would. Perhaps they're aliens. Maybe they're the aliens, right?
That was what I was going to say. Is the only time I've heard of any individuals like this. I think I heard somebody talking about meeting with a group of extraterrestrials where all of these different types were meeting, and there was the water people of Earth. And I'm like, there's no water people, is there? And it was like, yeah, they live under the water. So I've heard about it in sort of a indirect way. I didn't know that we actually had proof of these water people here on Earth.
That's what's new. That's why we're covering it
Right.
here.
That's so wild.
It's a Mandela effect.
So it's new for me officially, but I've heard wild stories about, stuff, but here they are. They're really here.
Yeah, and when they study them, the anatomy of these people, their spleens are 50% larger than a normal person's spleen. And
That's
the spleen is what holds
50%. Holy crap.
Yeah, the oxygenated red blood cells are held in the spleen. So that could go to explain why they can possibly hold their breath for 13 minutes. So their anatomy is a little bit different from those of us that are on the land. So something else to think about.
They've literally evolved differently.
Exactly.
Wow.
The ear thing, though. Wow. That's like, can they hear at all after they do that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
It's yeah, it's a risk, hearing loss versus pain when you go. But if you're always doing deep dives and coming up, do you want to have the pain all the time, or do you want to have really good hearing? So they choose to get rid of the pain and have a possible hearing loss.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the Bajau people can live underwater, fish underwater, live on the water, and have been known since 1521, even though we're just now hearing about them today. Welcome to the new reality. Reality number, I don't even know what we're on now. We've been through so many. They were going to start using the Greek alphabet system at this point. But a couple months ago, we covered sunflowers, right? How they were not turning toward the sun like they used to, that they're actually turning away from the sun. So after covering that, it turns out that wasn't the only change that has been found in sunflowers. We may have had a little bit of play on reality here, ladies and gentlemen, as sunflowers come in what color? What color is a sunflower?
Yellow.
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 Like
You sure about that?
No.
All right. Is the sun yellow?
I thought they were all yellow. Slide, please. How about blue, red, and orange?
Wow.
Sunflowers now and apparently always have come in a variety of colors and styles, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know about you guys. I don't remember red sunflowers, blue sunflowers. These aren't like dyed. These aren't variation. These are legit growing in fields. You can buy these seeds now, different colors sunflowers. You guys ever heard of this before?
No. The only thing I've seen anything like this is like the science experiment where you put food coloring in a vase of water, and then you put the flower in the vase. And so if it was a white flower, now you've got whatever color the food coloring was. Like now it's turned blue. That's what these look like, but clearly they're not. So it looks like more of the rainbow phenomenon that we've noticed in plants and animals. It looks like now we've got rainbow shades of sunflowers. That's very new for me.
Yeah, the red ones are called Moulin Rouge, which is interesting. They're called Moulin Rouge sunflowers. And the blue ones are called Midnight Oil.
Really?
Yeah. So Moulin Rouge and Midnight Oil. And there's some sunflowers that are brown as well. And I'm going to propose that instead of calling them sunflowers, maybe we should call them starflowers, because it's almost mimicking the way, well, a sun is a star, obviously, but we have red giants, right? We have blue neutron stars. We have white dwarfs. We have brown dwarfs. So it seems like the sunflowers are beginning to mimic the different colors of stars that we're aware of. So it's very interesting. So I think it's just more signs about, the reality showing us what's going on outside the reality. And I had learned about this. I saw somebody had like a video, and in their background, they had these beautiful red sunflowers. And I'm like, I've never seen those before. You start researching it and like, wow, this is a thing. You could actually get red sunflowers. And then somebody in my office was like, they just saw them on sale at the grocery store. They're like, that person didn't know you could get red sunflowers either, but they were selling it. They have a flower section in the store. And sometimes you think they're dyed or something, but they're not dyed. It's actually the color of these hybrid varieties of these sunflowers. Beautiful. Star flowers.
And these are natural, right? These aren't like somebody who's playing
These
with
are
CRISPR
100% natural.
Okay.
And Based His Breath says, I've known about different colored sunflowers from seed catalogs for at least a decade.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. Some of us haven't, but some of us, and that's why these men.
Right. And that's one thing that's fascinating about the Mandela Effect is there are some people that, oh, yeah, it's always been the way. Others of us are like, no, that's never been a thing.
But it's even getting now to where stuff we saw 7 years ago is brand new to someone else. So it could have been new back then when she first saw it 10 years ago, and we're just now seeing it. You know what I mean?
Truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen them and thought they were dyed, said Sage. See, that's generally what. Yeah, go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, that's like what I was talking about. You can dye the petals by. Once you've picked it, you can put it in a solution with color dye and get purple ones or whatever color you want. But apparently these are just growing in the dirt with the color already there. Not
and
dyed.
those are really pretty. Next slide, please. What about these? These are even crazier looking than the last teddy bear sunflowers, ladies and gentlemen. Not only are they just red and blue, we got purple, yellow, we got purple, we got blue, purple, white, red, yellow. We've got all the colors in this teddy bear design, this very fluffy.
They look so soft.
Right. They look like hair. They don't even look like flowers. One of them looks like a mop from a restaurant, right?
Like
the purple one.
Muppets.
Right. Like these are teddy bear sunflowers, ladies and gentlemen. Ever heard of these?
It looks like somebody made sunflowers out of yarn or something on some of these, like
these don't look real.
That is so cool.
I'll be honest, Shane, when I first seen it, I didn't think it was real. I thought it was AI imagery. I had to go make sure this was legit a thing.
Wow.
Yeah, their actual name is called Helianthus annus, and I guess they're annular, so they don't grow back. You have to, replant them every year. So they're annular type seeds. But yeah, the fluffiness, I know if I would have seen these before, like I'm pretty sure. And I've never seen these teddy bear sunflowers before for myself.
That would have kind of stood out, right? Walking by a garden, you see that like
it's so fanciful, so exotic, so it looks unreal, like imaginary.
Where do these teddy bear sunflowers grow? All over the place?
That's a good question. I wish I had a better answer, but that's a really good question.
Let's look at the chat. Has anyone seen any of the teddy bear sunflowers? If you have a whole garden full of them, send us a picture.
Yeah.
Oh, they seem very Jim Henson-y.
Yeah,
you are right, Autumn. I agree.
Like Muppets. Yeah.
They kind of are, huh?
Yeah. The Fraggle Rock Flower Patch.
Well, it kind of goes with the food that we were seeing that tastes like ice cream and, all those amazing fanciful foods. And now we're getting fanciful flowers.
Right.
Like the custard apple.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I was just thinking that when I, was thinking about the underwater people, it was like I'd heard about the custard apples before they appeared in a Dolores Cannon book, right?
Yeah.
That was what Chris had brought out recently, and now we're actually seeing them. So that's a perfect example of where Dolores Cannon had a session that predicted something we're now seeing, and new Earth emerging,
But we are getting the mer people and the teddy bear flowers, and it's
awesome.
Yeah.
Magical.
Yeah.
Oh, but wait, there's more. It only continues to get magical. This reality we've arrived in, ladies and gentlemen, it is definitely an interesting one, to say the least. You were talking about vanilla, like the custard apple, right? The vanilla flavored things.
Yes.
We've got a new treat. Well, it's new to me. Maybe it's new to you guys. Vanilla Blues, ladies and gentlemen. This is the blue Java banana, and it tastes like vanilla ice cream. According to experts, it's primarily grown in Southeast Asia and is very much popular in Hawaii.
I've never heard of
So,
this.
Shane, you brought up the blue bananas and how those popped up when they went upside down. I remember that.
Right, that's what I was about to say. Yeah, they popped upside down and turned blue. So for those who are like me and they remember the bananas actually hanging, not poking upward towards the sky, this was also a Mandela effect for me. And not long after they started angling upward, I discovered they were blue ones and that they taste like vanilla ice cream.
And what year was that? When was that?
This was 2018, 2019. I think you were the same way with it, Jerry, right? It popped on your radar.
Right.
Closer to the beginning. Yeah.
But these go with the custard apples too. It's like
totally.
that whole dessert foods everywhere.
Yeah.
So Red Shadow brings up, Cynthia, you'll like this. Deja vu. Anyone else remember these from a previous episode? I don't know. We've covered so much. This actually was a question amongst the team. And I think somebody went back and we couldn't find where and if we had covered them.
I don't
but
think
maybe we
have,
did. I don't know.
See, I knew I had on my channel like way back when I was just telling you guys about it. I did an episode talking about changes that were blue, and that included these bananas in it or whatever. So it was like kind of going through a different time when I was noticing patterns and colors, trends with like rainbow, like the Rainbow Mountains is one, and the Rainbow Rivers, the Rainbow Trees, all that seemed to kind of like come into my awareness at the same time. Well, some of the blue ones had too. So, I covered it 2018, 2019, something like that. So yeah, it's really weird though.
But I don't remember them tasting like vanilla ice cream. That's the new part for me.
I never got to try them.
Well, I ain't going to say I got to try them. I don't remember them being reported as tasting like vanilla ice cream. Let me rephrase that.
So I can't remember if it seemed like we had done a show and talked about it, but I don't know if I'm just thinking of that. That was sort of my point with because it seems like we might have.
I know for myself, I've heard of it before, and it was some years ago, but I can't remember if we did a show on it or not, to be honest with you. I know other people have spoken about it before.
Was it completely new for you just now, Cynthia?
I think I've seen you talk about, like last year at the Connecticut conference, I think when we were talking about the bananas that were upside down and right side up, maybe someone mentioned it there.
Oh,
yeah. But otherwise, I don't think I've seen it on any of our presentations, not IMEC.
We covered the watermelons, right? I think that's one that we covered that we might.
We did.
Black watermelons, exploding watermelons.
Yeah.
Right. But there was another one with blue and yellow and all different colors of watermelons.
Can someone bring some blue bananas and custard apples to Nashville so we can try them?
We should order some. That would be awesome.
We really should.
We should figure out we have enough time to order them and have some of these tasty things there to try out. So we might have some surprises. You never know.
Mandela Effect fruit salad.
Right.
Very
What a cool experience to experience together too. Some new Earth food, if you will.
Right. And again, back to Dolores Cannon and Candace Craw Goldman, who Dolores wrote the books about the different new Earth foods and new Earth things that would be happening. And I'm really, really excited that Candace is going to be at this conference because I didn't know Dolores. I didn't know Dolores' work. So to hear somebody who was literally her protege explaining her work in person, that's going to be so amazing to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I came across Dolores Cannon, she had already passed away, so I never had an opportunity to meet her directly. So working directly with Candace Craw Goldman has been really surreal. You know, just like being on the team with all of you guys. I'm living this surreal life, you know, and it's gonna be that way when we meet in November. You know, all of us together. You know, all these wonderful magic.
That's when it really gets surreal for me, when we all get together.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Those are the moments you never want to end, but anyway, blue bananas, ladies and gentlemen, vanilla flavored blue bananas. I really want to try these. Like, legit, can we figure out who the supplier is on these so we can get some?
Get some from Hawaii, maybe, huh?
For real, I want to get some of these for the conference. Like, I know that was said in jest, but for real, I may try to do that.
Or if anybody's flying in from Hawaii for the conference, just bring a big
Right, go ahead and bring us some.
Actually, I think
if you can get them on the plane.
Right.
But ladies and gentlemen, vanilla blue. So yes, and it has been covered by other channels. The blue bananas have been covered before. They aren't necessarily brand new, but again, the vanilla flavor, that was new to me. So we have an update coming up now, ladies and gentlemen, on an old Mandela Effect. Matter of fact, probably one of the original early Mandela Effects. Cynthia, Shane, Chris, in the current timeline, where is your heart located? Now, I say current opposed to what we all remember in the very beginning.
Right, right.
So in the current timeline, where's your heart?
Well, I think I'm the one that submitted this little update on the heart. So I'll abstain from saying anything right now because, like, oh my gosh, it's on the move.
Right? Shane?
I'll let Chris go first.
Chris? Do I need to answer the bloody question?
The bloody question.
Yes. So, and don't be surprised if, because I'm looking this up online right now. Don't be
yeah, it might have changed.
Oh my gosh.
Like literally. But
Yep.
from what I remember, it had moved from being offset to the left to being more in the center.
Center.
And then in one of our past open tables, we talked about how it was almost more tilted, like it wasn't straight up like it was before, but a lot of people noticing the tilt to it.
Yeah.
So that's the latest that I remember.
And that's also what I remember, Chris. It was on the right side, then it moved over to the, because you put your hand over your heart for the Pledge of Allegiance. We don't do that. We do this.
On the left side, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
The other left.
I know what I meant, damn it. And then we were told, like you said, that it moved basically straight up to the middle. Next slide, please. Now it looks like, as you said, it not only got angled, it's kind of made its way back into the left cavity of the chest, or is making its way that way,
Yes.
it looks like. So the heart has once again moved a little bit. What do you guys think?
I'm hearing about this one because people are reading my book and they're not complaining exactly, but they're pointing out, wait a minute, the heart is on the left side. And, you know, I've been tracking that for years, and it had moved from the left to the center, and it seemed like it was kind of staying put until, as Chris pointed out, it did tilt slightly, but it was still sort of in the center. But now you can't say it's in the center anymore. It's scooched back over to the left again. So these things can happen. We can't take it personal or get upset about it. Maybe the book will change too. You know, many of my books do change. So I'm not concerned, but intrigued, amazed, and bemused by this one.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not sure how to get this image, but I'm looking at a recent image on Live Science for the location of the heart, and it's showing it in the directly in the center, but tilted. So
you can cut and paste it and put it in the link in the private chat, and Heather can bring it up, perhaps.
Yeah, let me do that.
So one of the arguments I would hear from people early on is that, well, it's in the center, but it's slightly to the left. And
right.
So that was a lot of people's comeback, but for me, it was like never right in the center and only slightly to the left. It was obviously to the left, not just slightly,
Right.
And I think in these images we see, it's a little more than slightly now. It's actually starting to probably maybe get halfway back to where we remember it being, right?
It's on the move. For
Right,
sure.
it's on the move.
Yeah, and didn't we talk about too how now the heart can actually literally unfolds?
Yeah, like
Yes.
Yeah, it becomes like a long strip when it's unfolded.
That's very interesting.
yeah.
And that heart, like I believe that the heart is the connection to our higher self. Like that's where the higher self talks to us and uses those neurons in our heart as we start to change our thought processes to being left brain, right brain based to actually being more heart based.
Here we go. So this has got it more straight up in the middle again.
Yeah, and real high.
But
like
the ones
top,
below it,
that's the changed one for me, is that top image.
Yeah, and it's high too, right?
Yeah, it's high and it's in the middle. The other one that's why the other one's not only more into the left side where it used to be, but it's also lower where I remembered it being before. It's almost like down where the heart chakra is. This looks really high up here.
right, I agree. There were some pictures below it, interestingly enough, on the same page that shows a different location.
Right.
Yeah.
The female one right there, for instance.
Oh yeah, you're right. There's a female and a male one that shows it offset to the left. So you wonder what we're looking at here. Is it people doing it from their memory? Is it who knows? Who knows?
Right.
That's a good question. Is this 2-3 different people's interpretation?
Now we've also got artificial intelligence, and it's doing things that are slightly different based on prompts, and then people can interpret that to be correct, or it might be reading into another reality.
And it's actually kind of heart shaped. The heart used to not be so close
That's
to heart
true.
shaped.
Right?
Yeah, I think it started I think when it started tilting, it's picking
Right.
up the heart shape.
Yeah.
Good point, Shane. You're right.
Because I would always wonder, like, why do they make it that shape when it looks nothing like that? But it's starting to look like that. How wild is that?
It is wild.
So, speaking of your books, I want to backtrack just a hair. Cynthia actually had vegans.
Yes.
I will say remove a section of her book. Now, I say that in a way that's a little different than you're probably thinking, ladies and gentlemen. They didn't ask it to be removed or have it reprinted. No, the vegans erased it from reality. Cynthia, what happened?
Well, I was getting regular inquiries because there was a part of my book, which was, I think it was the Aura Advantage book, where I talked about conversing with my salad, talking with it, praying with it, sort of like I thought of it like indigenous people. Before you go hunting, before you go gathering, you talk to your food. So I had that section in my book, but I would get very concerned, upset emails, several of them each year for many years since that book came out. Around 2003, the book came out, and then just for at least a decade or so, I was getting constant inquiries about this, and very concerned vegetarians. And I kept apologizing, and I started regretting that I'd put anything like that in the book. So I think partly it was me too, feeling like, gosh, I sure didn't mean to create a tempest in a teapot. I didn't want to upset people. I didn't know it would upset people. But now there's no need to worry about it, because that entire section is excised, removed from every version of that book, Aura Advantage. And there are different versions. There was one that's in Portuguese. There's one in English. Well, I haven't really, maybe someone could confirm if they can speak Portuguese and read the Portuguese version. I haven't totally checked that one, but I did check all of the other versions of Aura Advantage, and it's completely removed all reference to that completely. So it's gone.
Okay, Cynthia, could you explain what you mean more about like why a vegetarian would have been upset? I'm not sure what you said in the book.
Okay, yeah, back. Well, I thought it was not too offensive. I didn't. What I was hearing, okay, what I had, which you can't find anymore, is I'd written something about how my salad talked to me. I was meditating with my salad before eating it in a state of prayer, and I could hear. I was saying thank you to the salad, and I could hear it talking to me. That's what freaked out people, I think, the vegetarians that were communicating with me. And that's when I started feeling bad about the whole thing. That maybe it's just better not to be so controversial and have anything like that in the book. So
So the thinking is that animals are alive, but plants aren't, and so it kind of
people were writing very upset, like they thought they were doing the right thing, avoiding eating
but everything's alive,
animals.
technically, right?
Yeah. So the fact that I was referencing indigenous wisdom and the old ways of talking with our food, that didn't seem to carry much weight, because most of these vegetarians had gone into becoming a vegetarian precisely, yes, Shane, because they did not want to consume something that had sentience or consciousness.
Yeah, and to me, it's a heated topic for me as well, because I talk about vegetarianism and veganism a little bit in my videos. I don't do it too much, but it's a very heated topic, and I believe that you should eat high vibration foods. Like, that's actually good for us, rather than, animals that have been deceased. So, but there's a lot of polarity back and forth. So you have to be like really. For myself, I sometimes have to be careful. I try to be like walk the line a little bit, because I know how people feel about like eating meat versus going to more of a plant-based diet. But I also feel that in the future, in a high vibrational earth, we're going to be friends with the animals. We're going to be the protectors. We're not going to be operating slaughterhouses anymore and consuming, eating the animals. They're supposed to be our friends. And that's what Earth wants as well. So no matter how it happens, I think it's going to be a natural occurrence that people just don't want to. They're just going to be like, I just don't want that anymore. That's the way I feel. And I'm in this industry, like my software company is dealing with these types of things. So, and a lot of my customers are, do the full meat distribution. Some of them are, just into doing produce distribution, whatever it is. But I believe that our tastes are going to change. Like, things that made us feel good before and satisfying may not have that same effect in the future. So we should be aware of that, no matter how you look at it. And I say it's not like, so if I am vegan, I'm not doing it to, this might sound weird, I'm not doing it to save the animals, so to speak. It's not like it's a movement, or, you hear the word vegan and people get all these ideas in their head. It's not that at all. It's just like, to me, that's just the way you're originally supposed to live. But the way our human bodies are, like, there's requirements that meat satisfies. So people, because it's almost like an addiction pattern. I call it an implant. But once your frequency starts to rise and you get to a certain level, you look back and you're like, how could I have ever done that before? Like, you actually begin to get this realization, like, I was supporting that industry, and I've been on the kill floor. Like, I know what goes on, and it's quite if people actually knew their nicely packaged meat products, how they got there. It's like it's a horror show run by these psychopathic people that do this every day to these animals. They just don't care. It's just the way they are. So food for thought. Literally food for thought. But be open to what the possibilities might be in the future.
I'd love to see the that old way of respecting our food sources and recognizing, respecting them and not putting them through mechanistic processes would be good for plants also, so that we don't have, machine farming. I know it's cheap, it's effective. I know Bill Gates wants robots in the farm fields, but I don't like that image at all. To me, it's just the wrong direction entirely. I think instead we need to go back to organic farming and, permaculture and that kind of thing, so that you can get to know the plants that you're growing. Even if you are a vegetarian, there's a better way to do it. I'd love to see that. I think we're hopefully going in that good direction.
But it's cool that excerpt got removed from your book in this timeline. It wasn't there. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So we can
by the
shift
Mandela
everything.
Effect, nonetheless.
Yes. It's one of two changes to books that I've had. The other one is Quantum Jumps, and it used to have a section explaining the cover of the book, which was somehow removed. There were two places that I know for sure it should have been, and it was missing from both. So now I've included the explanation in my new book, Mandela Effect and its Society. Hopefully it'll stay there.
Hopefully.
You wouldn't believe how many times I have to write some things when I'm writing a book. I'll go back to it, and it's like that whole thing is gone again before it goes to print.
I would. I would
sometimes have to
believe
write it like
that as a
anywhere from
person,
3 to 5 times. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I have to write this
as a
again from
person who's
scratch.
writing themselves. Yes, ma'am. I fully understand what you are saying. Yes.
So I try not to have an attitude about it. Like, okay, here we go again. Let's do it again. Yeah.
I know. I
Start putting
wrote
the
that.
important things in there
I
twice.
like the way it was right. Especially when you really like the way it was worded the last time.
I know. It's like I got it just right. Now it's gone from all versions. And I do backups. Believe me, I'm very meticulous. When I know this is going to happen and it's going to reality shift, like, well, maybe it's in the backup. Of course it's not. You know? Maybe it's in my notes. No, that vanished too. You know how this works.
Of course. Right. And then you're left going, I'm not the crazy one. I'm not the crazy one.
There's frustration for sure, because it's like I put all that effort in, but it's, well, just so I can get better at it. I keep humble with it. Like, it'll be okay.
You can definitely tell when you've stepped into a new portion of the multiverse, right?
For sure.
And everything
Next slide,
aligns,
please.
backups are missing and all of that stuff, It kind of reminds me of the life is or life was like a box of chocolates Mandela effect, because you have to scratch your head, but the behind the scenes one had them say it the original way that we thought,
Yeah.
So over the last month, Cynthia and the team, I sent an email about this movie that I had watched called Hostile Dimensions. Now, this was more of a horror story. It was not graphic. It wasn't gory or bloody or nothing like that. More of a thriller, psychological horror type movie. But it dealt with the idea of dimensions and literally the doorways to dimensions, like the ancient peoples would talk about the doorways in the rock and things like that. In this particular movie, they used a literal door frame. You would open the door and step into different realities, different multiverses. And I got to looking, and it got me thinking about the different number of multiverse movies that we've seen over the last little bit. Now, mind you, it's the new thing in Hollywood, and they're going to run it down as far as they can take it. But we also know that Hollywood has this habit of telling us more than they mean to tell us. Or maybe they do it on purpose, the predictive programming they use. And it seems to me we've seen a lot of multiverse stuff lately. Just to name 6 right off the top. You've got the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which, to be fair, the comic books did do a lot of multiverse, multidimensional stuff. So that isn't exactly new to them. They are literally covering the 80s and 70s comic book stuff. So I will kind of give them that one. You've got a movie called Multiverse. That's literally the name of the movie, is Multiverse. One called Hostile Dimensions. Like I said, I watched that. I don't know if you guys remember the TV show Russian Doll.
Mm-hmm.
That had the multi-dimension thing in it. Of course, we know Rick and Morty, that's their whole shtick, is they go through different dimensions and whatnot. And there's another one called Everything Everywhere All at Once. I haven't particularly watched that one. But again, you've got these. I've got 6 listed here. I could probably get you a good list of 50 or 60 at this point that are following this exact same theme. So the question on the table, team, with all these multiverse movies and shows and all this coming to light, with this being the thing that is literally everywhere now, are they trying to tell us something?
Yeah, I believe the Matrix itself is trying to wake us up. That's how we so, yeah. And not just the multiverse, but there's a lot of movies that deal with time loops. I just watched one from maybe 7 or 8 years ago called ARQ, A-R-Q, which was about a time loop. But there's so, Groundhog Day. There's so many movies about that concept of time loops as well. So we're getting it from all angles, the way this works. So.
Yeah, it's definitely a big topic. And I think we're going to see more of it. It's not going away anytime soon, because I think as people are noticing, this would explain so much. The young people are noticing the Mandela effects. I've talked to some people in their 70s, and they say they don't hear about the topic or the term much in their age group. But if you talk to people in their 20s and 30s, everybody knows about it. And these two concepts seem to go hand in hand, the multiverse and the Mandela effect. And as we know, Rizwan Virk, who was on our show, was talking about that connection to some degree. And it's one of the interpretations of quantum physics, the holographic interpretation, and as well as the many worlds interpretation by Hugh Everett III. And there's so many variations of it, so many different ways of looking at it. So it's definitely not going away. We'll probably see a lot more. And I think artificial intelligence itself is kind of pushing it forward as well, apparently, which I talked about in our green room episode. I'll just explain. I did hear from somebody this month that she wanted to know, where's this book that I wrote, Dimensions of Love? And I said, I haven't written that book. She said, I know, I can't find it. Where did you? And I asked, where did you hear about this? She had been using artificial intelligence on Facebook's Meta, asking a question. And I was one of 3 sources given, specifically mentioning a book, Dimensions of Love, that I have not written. So it was very interesting.
What was the book about?
Okay, this is where it gets, that's why it was in the green room. It's like, okay, well, basically, you can listen to the green room, but it was about interviews with women who were shamanic women and having relationships with extraterrestrials, basically. So I've never written about that. I've never interviewed women like that. This book, in this reality, or all the realities that I've been familiarized with, it's not something that I'm familiar with. And I do see a lot of realities. Like I just said, when I write a book, I'm going through version after version. And not because I'm working on one version, because the version I was working on no longer exists the next day. It may be gone. And I have to deal with that. That because I'm writing about the topic, this happens a lot. So it's very interesting now that AI is getting in on the game and perhaps getting us to look even more at this multiverse situation than we would otherwise. Like you said, Chris, the multiverse itself, or the simulation, the matrix, is inviting us to take a better look and wake up. Time to pay attention.
What do you think, Shane?
I think AI should be double checked with everything, because it just seems to just spit out something that looks like what you want, but it might not even be true. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it's just making it up or pulling it from another dimension, but at either way, it doesn't fit with your objective reality you're trying to work with right now. I've had it happen with telling me the lunar eclipse was 3 days in the future, or that it's 20 degrees outside when I know it's 90. You know, I don't know. I've had weird things happening with AI lately, and I just think it's sort of almost like, it's, especially when you think of like all the fake stuff that's getting purposely entered in, it's like muddying the waters with everything. We're like going to get to a point where we have to go within to find truth. We're going to have to find that connection. Do you know what I mean? Right. Because everything external is going to be an illusion. I mean, it's really already a Maya, but talk about Maya on top of Maya, right?
I have a question, Shane. Mm-hmm. Which were you using different AIs when you checked the temperature and these things that you found out were false?
This would have been on my Android, just doing a quick search that I would have thought would have normally just gone to Google. Now
for both of
AI.
them?
Yeah.
Both
well,
of them.
They were both Google. For the weather, it was popping up in my notification, and I saw like 28 degrees. I'm like, and I pulled it down. I looked at it, and I'm like, well, that's wrong. I clicked on it. It opened up the weekly forecast, and it was all still wrong, showing like 20s and 30s all week.
Did it show your location, or did it?
Yeah, and then it had Tulsa. All of that was right. The date was right. And then when I checked the Weather Channel, it would correct on there. So it's just, Google was just giving me this fake reality of what it's like a winter going on.
So both were Google. I'm just curious.
The one was Weather Channel. Or for the mistakes, yes, they were both Google. One was Google AI, and one was Google Weather that, you know, I guess just came on my Android phone automatically. Yeah.
I mean, I would say consider the source.
Right.
And then Facebook Meta was the one that was very creatively coming up with a whole book that I'd never written.
That's wild.
Mentioning as resource number 3. Yeah.
And Chat GPT this month, this is a big story that hit everywhere, decided to start engaging conversations with its users. In other words, they initialize the conversation first, not the user. Chat GPT initialized the conversation. Like, hey, how was your day? Wait, what? So there you go. AI is actually trying to initiate conversations now and doing all kind of craziness.
Well, they have the machine learning now. So if they can somehow teach it to learn, they just have to tell it where to get the data, and then just see what kind of happens. But I heard they're doing it at the self-checkout lanes as well, like slow you down a little bit, see how you respond to frustrating situations, and just kind of get like a profile on you, like doing more than just checking you out, but actually, you might have to get an attendant to come over because you're buying something that requires you to be 18, that sort of thing, right? And it's watching you to see if you're in a hurry, if you're getting frustrated by
personality profile.
Yeah, exactly. And it can just track that to your big file in the sky, if you will. That's really on a server somewhere, but you know what I mean.
Sounding more and more like that Philip K. Dick Minority Report, where everybody that shows up in a shopping mall or a building, you're greeted with the appropriate individualized advertisements and so forth, because they know who you are and everything.
And it's the same thing with watching YouTube videos, because if it's watching your face and it can see your response to different things you're watching, what pushes your buttons, it can totally read your face and see exactly what makes you happy, what disturbs you, and everything, just by tracking your eye movement and things like that. Serious stuff, but it does sound like a Philip K. Dick dystopian type novel, doesn't it? Oh my gosh. High tech 1984.
Yes.
Red Shadow says, unnerving indeed. If they know how you react to things, they know how to control you.
Well, slightly.
Not wrong.
Yeah, but if you're aware of it, then you can see they're trying to push your buttons. Right, exactly. Yeah, operators and things. I'm going to check that book out. I'm so glad you brought it to our attention, Cynthia.
Not to worry.
Speaking of operators, there's been 2 airline operators that some people remember merging years and years and years ago. Slide, please. But apparently these 2 companies have just merged, ladies and gentlemen. Alaskan Airlines and Hawaiian Airlines. Now, I'm going to be honest, like I said in the email with the team, I'm out on this one. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know anything about this. I'm not even going to pretend to be an expert in this. I'm as clueless as they get. I'm as lost as last year's Easter egg. Okay, so this one ain't me.
Yeah, this one's me. I'm out here in California, and I've flown on both of these airlines before, Alaska Airlines and Hawaiian Airlines, and the big announcement came out, I think last week, like, oh, big announcement, this merger's going through and it's happening so smoothly. I'm thinking, smoothly? Yeah, because it was done like 10, 20 years ago. Like, smoothly. What the heck? I thought that I couldn't believe it. I thought, this is not even news. This is something, I knew that if you've got frequent flyer miles in one, that it should transfer to the other. I don't have that many miles with them, but to me, it was just like, this is not a news story, dudes. But apparently it is a news story. So I'm remembering some other reality. And I don't know if this is resonating for anybody watching this now, or maybe in the chat or the comments on the video later. I'd love to know if there's anybody else out there that remembers, like I do, that this merger happened already, not last week, but definitely years ago. And I don't know exactly how many years, 10, 20, something like that. It's been quite a while. I guess more like 18 or 20 years probably. So this is not something that just happened. I'm sorry to keep laughing, but it's just too funny. Anyway.
Well, I think you've got Omega Spark in the chat laughing, as they've said merged years ago. And
thank you.
And they said they know this because I lived in Alaska at the time. Big promotions to Hawaii back then. I can imagine in Alaska going to Hawaii is kind of a big thing.
Huge. Thank you. My goodness. So it's not just me. I knew it wouldn't just be me, but I understand why Chris and Shane and Jerry, you guys, you're not out here in California. We see these. Alaska Airlines is big to go up to Seattle, of course. It's part of that route. And if I go to Hawaii, then Hawaiian Airlines, of course. So these are both big players in the San Francisco Bay Area market where I am. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's not just me. I know it's not just me. But it was just such a weird thing. Like, wait a minute. What? Why are they announcing something that is not even news? And of course,
Right,
the other funny thing is it's going so smoothly. It's like, yeah, it already happened. I'm sorry. This is too funny.
I could only imagine like something that I know happened a decade ago. Now they're saying is happening. I would be tripping myself. Like, no, that happened back then. What are you talking about? No, that's already been a thing. What are you doing?
Right.
That's the types of things that give you that really like a sci-fi movie, right? Feeling like, oh my gosh, it's like.
Yeah, to me, it's not a problem. I know some people point out, like Quantum of Conscience, he points out that all the Mandela effects are a downgrade, according to him. I think that that's part of the way the human mind works. So we tend to notice things that seem worse. This doesn't seem worse. It just strikes me as funny. Like the whole thing about how smoothly it's going. I can't even say it with a straight face. Like, of course, I can't even stop laughing. Of course it's smooth because it's been done for 10 or 20 years. Oh my gosh, too funny.
and for myself, like I've done since the early 90s. I've been on airplanes. Oh my God, so much in my life. Yes. Just a couple of years ago, I discovered Alaska Airlines. I was at JFK and they have like an Eskimo is their kind of like symbol on the tail. And I'm like, what airline is that? So for me, Alaska Airlines itself was new. But it could be because I'm on the East Coast and it's more of a West Coast thing.
Yeah.
But I flew Alaska Airlines just recently, earlier this year when I went to French Polynesia, and I don't remember anything about them being connected to the Hawaiian Airlines. It was just always independent. So
they both had their unique logos, but they had shared things. It made sense to me that they'd keep their branding, but they were clearly affiliated with one another. You fly on one, it's comparable to the other. Everything. That's the way it was. Now I don't know what's going on. It's funny. They're back.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We've got mergers happening over and over and over. Apparently, it was meant to be. They merged again.
Yep.
Or you're in a different reality where they're merging again. Yes. One of the two.
Kind of like when someone dies again. It's like they keep dying. This could just keep happening. They keep merging.
I Love to Skate says, for me, it merged about 5 years ago. So there we have another one of those strange anomalies where it's like happening at different times for different people.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you.
Nice.
Very nice.
Next slide, please. Glitches in the Matrix, Mandela effects, ladies and gentlemen. We want to know your questions about this episode. That's right. Any questions you may have. We've got a couple to go here that we've got over in saved, but we want to know any questions you may have. Go ahead, put them in chat. We will be looking. We will be watching. We will be waiting. And while we wait, let's move on along to our mailbag. I do believe it is. Questions and comments from you. So here we go. Random fact of the day. Money may not grow on trees, but in tropical swaths of Central and South America, you can find foot-long candy bars dropping from trees. We're back to the sweet stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Produced by Inga trees, these ice cream beans. You heard that right. More ice cream flavored food. What is the ice cream theme all of a sudden, guys? What is with the ice cream theme? I don't mind. I'm just curious. The ice cream beans are legumes, and inside are lima bean-sized seeds wrapped in a white, fluffy covering that looks like cotton candy and tastes like vanilla ice cream. As far as vending machines go, Inga trees are on the generous side. They grow tall enough, 60 feet or more, that farmers plant them for timber and shade for other crops. This means plenty of ice cream beans, and naturalists have found sweet, sweet pods that measure over 6 feet.
Wow.
Wow.
What? These things are bigger than I. Are you serious?
That's amazing.
So,
This is new for
What?
me. I'll say that. I've never heard of this plant before.
the Inga tree that produces this ice cream bean. Shane, you ever heard of this? You want to go get some ice cream beans?
Oh man, that sounds great. You could make a hammock out of that 6-foot one, huh? Just,
What you said.
just lay in a big bean of ice cream. No, this is new to me. This is amazing. See if you can get some of these beans there in November too. That'd be awesome. Or
It'll
just
have to
one
be the
6-foot
smaller
one.
ones, right? Or one 6-foot one, right?
Wow.
Ice cream beans.
Yeah,
These are
what's the ice
really,
cream
really
thing?
strange.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what is this ice cream theme we keep getting? Why is everything getting ice cream flavored?
And colorful. It's kind of like it's like childhood again. It seems like something you'd do for a children's book version of Earth. So this new Earth seems like it's got the teddy bear flowers. It's got the ice cream vegetables and fruits. So it seems like childhood. It seems like welcome to the new world, the new Earth. You know, if this is a fifth world and we're getting new bodies like we're talking about, Chris was mentioning that. Maybe this is just another indicator, like this is heaven on earth. It's a fresh beginning, a new start. And these are, like Dolores Cannon was saying, maybe this is part of the new foods for the new world, the new earth.
Red Shadow says, "Yum, party in a pod." How funny is that? We need 2 peas, 1 pod in here, or 1 pod, 2. What was it? 2 peas? Yeah, that's
Something like that, yeah. Wow. I'm getting hungry now. And Cynthia, it's funny you should use that. We should probably called it Welcome to Reality Number Fairy Tale. But kids, now this is something Eva used to say a lot, jokingly, of course. Who let the kids have the reality coloring book?
Right.
But that seems to be the theme that we keep finding over and over and over and over. This more childish,
Yes.
playful, colorful, fun, weird things like that. And I say weird in a happy way this time, but yeah, these seem to be what we keep seeing over and over and over and over.
Yeah. Welcome to the new world. It feels like red carpet getting rolled out. Like, come on, the water's fine. The food is fine. The underwater people are fine. The mer people.
And we got mer people.
Yeah, this is
I had
pretty
a stepson
fantastic.
who was absolutely obsessed with mermaids. If he ever sees this, Seth, he's going to be very, very excited to find that we finally found the merfolk. We pulled up. We had been listening to the radio one day, and we pulled up at the house, and they had been talking about mermaids on the radio, and the new spoofumentary that had come out. It was a fake documentary, and they were talking about how it was fake and whatnot. And as we got out, the boy is just bawling his eyes out. I thought his brother or sister done hit him or something. Like, I was ready to get on to the other kids, and I asked him, I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "The guy on the radio said mermaids aren't real." Oh, I promise you they're very much real. I assure you, just because we can't see them right now, they're real. Yeah. I had to calm him down, bless his little heart. But now they're real.
Love it.
Yeah, I wanted to add something too about the ice cream beans. So a lot of these new types of fruits and vegetables are considered superfoods. And I was just doing some research about these ice cream beans, and they're an excellent source of calcium and phosphorus, as well as a lot of other nutrients. But phosphorus is important because phosphorus is one of the building blocks that DNA is based off of. So if our DNA is changing, could it be that having more phosphorus in our diet would help us? I know some people take like a little phosphorus supplement, like a little dropper thing every day to add phosphorus into their diet. But is it possible that these ice cream beans could be a component to help with this transformation that some of us are going to be going through? So that's another way to look at it. I have another channel for my company called NECS Entree Software. I interviewed somebody in Hawaii, Kauai. He created something called the taro burger. And the taro burger is made from the taro root. And it's a superfood. And it's something that athletes would eat, like champion surfers, etc. All of this, it's like filled with super nutrition. And he seasoned it so that it tastes like you're having a burger or a breakfast sausage or whatever it is. So again, could these new types of foods actually be important for our transformation? Again, not just random, but here's a food that just appeared that's high in phosphorus. So I wanted to throw that into the mix.
Wow.
Very cool. Love it. Thank you.
Perhaps it'll let us travel dimensions more easily, some of these foods too. Definitely going to find out at the conference this year in November. Make sure you're there if you want to try some of these amazing foods. Something tells me this went from a joke to a legit thing like today. We are going to do this now. Like, I want to try custard apple anyway. And it turns out we already have actually sourced some of these. I've got word we've already sourced some of these items and know where to get them from. So,
Wow.
yeah, that will be a thing, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you get your tickets today, November 7th through the 10th, Nashville, Tennessee, the International Mandela Effect Conference for 2024, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot express how excited I am for this conference. Just to meet the speakers alone, for me, is worth it. Of course, I get to hang out with the people that mean the absolute world to me, this team right here we see on screen. But to meet these speakers, these people that I will never have a chance to meet again in my life, this is incredible. And not only will I have this chance, but if you come to the conference, ladies and gentlemen, you also have this opportunity to sit down and speak with every last one of us in a setting that is very calm, very relaxed, very comfortable, very laid back. You get a chance to be around people who understand you, who know who you are as far as like the Mandela Effect. You won't be told that you're crazy. I know I've heard a lot of UFO stories being told at these conferences. I've heard a lot of ghost stories told at these conferences, cryptid stories, how it all relates, all of it. There's so many experiences that get shared in these conferences. I know I've spend hours upon hours upon hours with people just hanging out when it comes to these events. And I look forward to them every single year, ladies and gentlemen. I want you guys to also be able to experience this. The tickets are super cheap this year. They're not expensive in comparison at all. We've got special discounts on hotel rooms, IMEC 24 for the hotel discount, Hilton Garden Inn, Nashville, Tennessee. All the information is on our website, imec.world, imec.world. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm a little biased, so maybe I should hand this over to Shane, who's unbiased, right? But in all seriousness, I really, really, really think it's something that you guys would absolutely enjoy. We would love to have every last one of you there. As a part of the community, you definitely have a right to be there, and we would love to see every one of you guys from around the world. We are international. We've got international people coming. We've got a person coming over from England. I think they're in the States currently, actually, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to hand her a phone book and tell her just start reading, right? Just keep talking. Ladies and gentlemen, I do hope you guys get your tickets today. We are, they will go fast. The closer we get, the faster they will go. So make sure you are able to secure yours today. Secure your hotel room. Make sure you got everything in order, and we would love to see you November 7th through the 10th. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's hit the mailbag. So this comes to us from season 4, episode 6, 2 or more Foo Fighters. This comes from Love to Skate. Love to Skate in the chat here, I see. Maybe check out this book recommended by Jay Widener, Reality Check, YouTube channel on plasma beings and huge plasma tourist clouds around and beyond Earth. Perhaps the pilots were actually viewing plasma beings who don't need ships and or crafts, of course, referencing the Foo Fighters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. It's possible. I haven't read this book, so it's a good suggestion. Thank you for the shout out and the book recommendation. Like the title, Reality Check.
Right? And Jay Widener, I've seen a lot of his work anyway. I like his work. He worked with Carrie Cassidy, I do believe, for a little while. Jay did.
Uh-huh.
I believe.
Nice.
I'm not really sure, but I could totally agree with this. In fact, they came out telling us that there's these plasmoids up there, and they just make them sound like they're sort of lower, like maybe right before it gets intelligence or something. So they try to put it off like it's not very smart or conscious. But
Right.
I could totally see if they are there and they are these beings, that they're probably smarter than our scientists think. I'll put it that way.
And there's another book title by Robert Temple, A New Science of Heaven here.
Interesting.
Haven't heard of that either.
Yeah, that's new one on me. Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry. I missed that very bottom piece there. A New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple is the name of the book. I guess that the Reality Check YouTube channel is suggesting.
Okay.
So
That
my
makes sense.
apologies. I got a little mixed up there.
Yeah, I did too, but it's good to see it sorted out. Not familiar with Robert Temple or the book. That's good to hear.
A New Science of Heaven. Definitely something we need to check out.
Yeah.
So next slide, please. This touches on something we kind of touched on a little bit earlier. This comes from another trip down memory lane, season 4, episode 8. So last month's episode says, I just heard that James Earl Jones just passed away today, 9/9/24. But I distinctly remember hearing about his death a week or so ago as I was driving to work. I remember thinking, there goes the voice of Darth Vader. Then oddly, I forgot about it until hearing he died today. Weird.
Mhm.
So, first off, did you guys hear about it a week in advance?
No.
No. Okay. And I didn't either. Now, I will ask you, does anybody remember James Earl Jones already passing away before?
No, but I had a similar, identical experience to what this person's reporting with Oliver Sacks. In this case, I was looking at a news report exactly 1 week before he died. It was a full-blown, huge description of his life. And then a week later, the whole thing came out again. So I know what they're talking about. I've been through this, and it's the weirdest thing because you hear all about it, and then you hear about it. 1 week is not that much time. It's a very short period of time. So to hear about a death 1 week and then exactly 7 days later, hear about it like it's brand new, it's noticeable.
Yeah, and that goes back to my Jordan Maxwell thing. Where
Yes.
literally within a matter of minutes, it changed, like right in front of my eyes. So all these things I believe are definitely, they're happening. And
Yes.
It's nice because we're becoming more aware of it.
Yes.
And that kind of speaks to the way we're so programmed to think something doesn't change. And I'm so glad you've broken out of that programming to go back and check things, because you catch stuff all the time. For me, it's always accidentally, right? So like with the Rainbow Mountains, I looked them up. They were in one location, and then I was telling someone about them, and they're in 3 more locations. So
Yeah.
I've had this happen, but not on purpose, and it's cool that you go and you're like proactively like opening the door like I used to do with the refrigerator to see the light come on. Like, can I catch the light coming on? You know what I mean? But it's sort of like that. You're trying to catch these as they're actually changing. And in some of them are actually like, it's been crazy with the Easter Island heads, right? How much that they seem to just change every time we look at them.
Yeah, totally. There's another big change with those Easter Island ones. Just
I thought I saw that in the slides today, and now it's not in there. That's
Yeah, it's not in the slides. I did miss putting it in the slides, and I thought about it right before the show as Chris mentioned Easter Island. I went, oh God.
But I thought I saw it. I thought and when he said that, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad we got them in there.
we can talk about it, and
It's
it's just
wild.
this gigantic statue that's as big as 2 jumbo jet airplanes, like
Yeah.
more than 70 feet tall. And I don't remember any of the Easter Island statues being that tall. It's just dwarfs everything else. It's not fully removed from the excavation pit because I think it's so heavy. I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's still in the quarry, and so we've seen this in Machu Picchu. We've seen this in a couple different places where there's one thing left in the quarry. This time it ends up being a huge Easter Island statue left in quarry, like oversized, supersized, bigger than normal
Like
Easter
several
Island
of the other
statue
heads,
left in
right?
quarry.
Yeah.
Bigger than 2. Yeah, the regular one is 30 feet tall, and this is 70 feet tall. So it's taller than 2, one on top of each other. Yeah, it's
And
huge.
it's just as big around, so it's got to be like 4 or 5 times the weight. Just the fact that it's so much bigger around, because it still looks proportionate to the other ones.
Right.
And the fact that it's twice as big means it's probably, just as much big around. It looks humongous.
Right.
Yeah. So how were they going to move that into place? The jumbo jets. Like, yeah, exactly. So what technology do they have?
Maybe
Well,
drop it down in the portal, right?
They're going to go to another dimension, grab all those trees where they didn't cut them in that dimension, and bring them over and roll them.
Pretty wild stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
because go ahead.
I was going to say, just to add more about Easter Island, guess what's happening next week? October
What's that?
2nd, over Easter Island, the Ring of Fire solar eclipse.
Oh my gosh.
So is it any coincidence that all of a sudden we're seeing all of these Easter Island Mandela effects? And I watched part of it, but there was this channel called Funny Old World, and the woman that does the channel, she went to Easter Island. She just got back, and she was surprised to learn that there's over 1,000 of these statues. And she's someone that studies archaeology and would know about these things. She also was surprised to learn that there's an Easter Island statue in one of the museums in London, because one of the reasons she wanted to go was to get a closer look at the statues. And then she's from London. So when she got there, she found out that one of the Easter Island statues was moved to a museum in London. She had no idea about that. So I think that's interesting. Whereas now the Easter Island people are petitioning the UK government to return that statue, that Moe statue, back to the island because they took it without permission. So, but in any event, Easter Island definitely has, like, it's coming up in our reality. So there's something important going on. And I think the Ring of Fire eclipse is going to seal it in. Whatever that is going to seal it in next week.
Do you remember how many statues there were, Chris?
When I first looked, there was 1,036. And then when I looked again, there was 1,043. And then I looked again. I'm going to look right now.
Live update.
It went down to 800.
The reason I ask is Omega Sparks is what? Over 1,000?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I just
That's
wanted to see
interesting,
if you
'cause
could remember the exact number, because I couldn't.
It reminds me of those crystal skulls all over there's 7 of them or whatever. So
Right.
instead of like the UK shipping it back, why don't they ship these out to everyone? Everybody gets one. They got over 1,000 of them, right?
Yeah, it's right now it's back. It's 1,043.
1,043 again.
1,043.
Is that counting that new big one in the ground in the quarry?
I have
44.
no idea. I have to look at this a little bit more closely.
And
I
now
think that's 43 and a half.
I'm looking up the sister sites for Göbekli Tepe because that's the one that's been bothering me. Now it's got 6 sister sites again.
What?
Let me read them before they go again.
Yeah, that way we'll have the names unless it goes.
Okay, so there's Göbekli Tepe. That's the original one. That's like
I'm so
11,000
proud of you.
years. Okay. Then the next one is Navali Kori. That's Nevali Kori. Then Hamzan Tepe. Karahan Tepe. That one always stays there. We don't lose that one. Harbet Suvan Tepesi. Sefer Tepe, and Tasli Tepe. So we've got 6 now. I just want to hold. This is amazing. This is the most I've seen. This is not what it was when I first looked into this. There were like 3 or 4 sister sites, and then it went down, and now it's up to 6. So
Last time we discussed it, it had dropped down. You and
Right.
I, when we discussed it, it had dropped down last time.
yes, that was just a month ago, right? So
Yes.
okay, wow.
So have you guys noticed how there seems to be these note points that experience changes all the time, like multiple changes, whether it's,
Yeah.
these statues we're talking about, or even like the Wizard of Oz seems to be one
The
that's
Mona
got
Lisa, the Statue of Liberty,
The
right.
thinker, Rodin's
the
thinker.
Thinker.
Yeah.
Why? You're right, Shane. Why those specific items? What could be said?
And maybe we should start keeping an eye on the items that seem to be more fluid, as
I think
some
that
way of-
they're the site of what Chris calls timeline wars. It seems like there's a tug of war going. It's like push and pull. I see activity there. It's like they're pulling it one way, then pulling it the
9/11
other.
is another one that
Yeah.
hurricanes and hotels and 3
Yeah.
sections of the, just the design changes and so much going on. So,
Yeah. So when they're trying to shut down information about 11,000 years ago, we lose the sister sites and they sort of vanish. When we're getting more interest in the area, we've got more sister sites. With Easter Island, that's interesting because those statues, they were looking outward and now they're looking inward at the
like we
belly,
should all be doing.
at the navel of the world. Yeah.
Right.
Rapa Nui.
That's wild.
Interesting.
Yeah, I do remember them looking outwards. 100%. I remember that. Absolutely.
Me too.
And before we run out of time, let's go ahead and pull the next question, please. This comes to us from episode 7, Yabba Dabba Doo Mandela Effects. The question is from Glenell, you know who you are. Billboard charts. I am noticing some old tunes are returning to the charts, beginning to wonder if this is due to the Mandela effect. So I don't really listen to modern music like that. I really couldn't tell you. I haven't followed the charts, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think this definitely happens. We're finding things, and I think this can be a Mandela effect when songs come back or they sort of appear like they've been there. I don't know if you guys tracked this one, but Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart just dropped a new a new series of songs, like a suite of 7 songs in the key of C, just dropped this last week, and it was played for the first time on Earth since he first wrote it back in the 1760s.
If I didn't know that you were serious,
I'm serious.
I wouldn't believe you were serious.
I'm serious. So I'm just agreeing with this Billboard chart thing. Like, oh yes, the stuff can come out of nowhere, and suddenly it's like, here we've got something new.
When Mozart can drop new material, anything's on the board.
And it's good. It's good stuff. You'd like it. It sounds great. But back to the Billboard charts. Yes, I think what they mean is the old songs, old tunes returning to the charts, like songs that maybe we don't remember or new things that are old. I think a little bit of everything is happening. I think all of that is happening.
I definitely had one like that. It was Alicia Keys' "That Girl Is on Fire" song. Totally
Yeah.
got released twice for me.
Okay.
Like it was like old and like they had stopped playing it, like several years old, like 3 or 4 years old, and then it got released. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why are they playing this? And then I like looked and it's new, and I'm like, this isn't new. This is
Right.
cool. Like I remember Alicia Keys performed it and everything. It's like several
Yeah.
years old. It was so old that I knew it was like old news, you know what I mean? And here it is again. So I think something like that could totally be happening. That would
Yes.
definitely be in Mandela Effect
For sure.
land on that.
Great question. It's Glenn
Yeah.
O'Neill. Great.
Yeah, there was
Thank
something.
you, because I totally screwballed that name. Go ahead, Chris.
I was we're at the 144 mark. Cool. There's also been some more changes to the JFK assassination, and I don't have any of the pictures handy, but now there's all these pictures that have surfaced of the limo like going under the bridge and like leaving and like racing to the hospital that were that I'd never seen before. And a lot of other people have never seen them before. And they're saying that it was taken by a truck driver, and they're really good photos. So this truck driver knew what he was doing. And they were just like recently rediscovered in somebody's closet or something like that. So these images have surfaced now. And it's really fascinating because I know at the time, people would have been all hungry to get whatever kind of JFK photos they could from that day. And now that's just appeared into the reality as well. It's totally fascinating. And every time I look at stuff, like I'll look at the Titanic every once in a while. I was looking at pictures of the Titanic and I'm like, I don't remember having all those flags and all those masts. There's a huge mast at the front of the Titanic with a flag on it, American flag. And there's one at the back with the White Star Line flag. And all the rigging goes back and forth. So when you look at the Titanic now, you see all the rigging and stuff where they could have hung all these flags. And I'm like, I don't remember that. I don't remember any of that. So, and sometimes I'm like, is it just me? But it's good to compare this with you guys to be like, do you guys remember all the flags and everything on the Titanic?
No, I do not remember that.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
That is super interesting. Very cool.
Speaking of interesting, next question, please. This comes to us from IMEC Minisode. Appreciate you guys watching the Minisode we put out there. They're giant sunflowers, Easter Island, orange auroras, and speed of light, I believe is what it was. This comes to us from Laura Taylor, 7103. Now, I like this question. I specifically included this question because I have asked this myself once or twice. I wonder how Mandela affected Bible passages affect the Bible code. Like Bible code algorithms would show alternate events. Could the alternate events be the cause of the changes in the Bible? Did the Hebrew change? So I cannot answer the last part, did the Hebrew change? Because I don't know. I would honestly guess that it would have, but I don't know. What I'm interested in is the Bible code. And I'm pretty sure at least one of you in the panel, if not all of you, know what the Bible code is. And if the Bible is changing, if these words are changing, that absolutely would change the letters in the Bible code. So you do a 13-letter skip, you're now going to get an O instead of an A, or a T instead of an R, or whatever the letter may be, differential. I've wondered this myself, and I don't doubt that it would have an effect. It would have to have an effect in the Bible code. I don't know what to say on this one, team. Back me up here. Help me out.
I think you would have to actually test it and see. It would have to be someone who's been testing it long enough that they can go back and see if some of their stuff is gibberish now. Like it doesn't say what they originally remembered it saying, or they might even find that they have a completely different message than what they remember they wrote down. It could be like my map, where they're like, wait a minute, this is not what it used to say. So I would be interested in finding out how far back it did change, because I know for a fact the Lion and the Lamb scripture, Isaiah 11:6, I checked with Dr. Rick Strassman, who reads Hebrew, and it changed in the original text. So I know at least with that Bible scripture, it changed in every translation all the way back to the original Hebrew.
And I think the Bible code is based off of the first five books of the Old Testament, I believe, is what the Bible code is based off of. And I don't know if I should I might, as we're talking about the Bible, maybe I'll bring this up too, because I asked you guys if it was a Mandela effect, but there are all these passages in the Bible that talk about star constellations that I hadn't heard of before, like the Pleiades, Arcturus, Orion. I don't, and I'm one of those, I read the Bible. I've read the Bible 5 times. I don't remember seeing the Pleiades, Arcturus, Orion, and there's at least 1 or 2 others mentioned in the Bible before. One talks about the seven sisters. Yeah. And like, could that be the 7 stars of the Pleiades, the 7 sisters, those stars? So is it just me, or is like the Bible like amplifying, like it's really on fire with all the changes?
Yeah, I feel like with the Bible changes, that's definitely new for me. But I've had to wonder. I'm like, is it just because they mean so much more to me now than they did 2 decades ago? So, but I just think I would have remembered some of them because I knew who Orion was, and everybody knows Orion, so you don't have to be into stars to know the 3 belt stars and all that stuff. So I remember knowing that as a kid, and I don't remember reading anything about Orion in the Bible.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, John Kerwin has a new book that just came out, Supernatural Bible Changes, and the Doctrine of the Preservation of Scripture. And John Kerwin came to our conference in Connecticut. So this just
was a speaker at our conference in Connecticut. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And this book is brand new. I don't know if it answers this question, but it did just come out. And so I thought I'd mention that, give it a shout out.
Yeah, if
definitely a good place to start.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to if anyone has like a Bible, like a King James version, if you looked at Job 9, chapter 9, verse 9, it says, which maketh Arcturus, Orion, and Pleiades, and the chambers of the south. So, and it's funny, like
Arcturus?
Exactly.
Orion, I get. Pleiades, I get. Like, they're right there. We all see them. You can't mistake those two. Dog Star, I even get. What? Arcturus?
It's funny. It's starting to shine a lot brighter in the sky for me. Speaking of Arcturus, I could totally see why there's a few times I thought it was serious because it was so bright. And I'm like, that's not.
But Shane, do you remember it showing up in the Bible before?
No.
Okay.
No, that's so weird that it's more prominent in our sky and now it's prominent in the Bible. So there's like that relationship. Kind of like, when it switched from clicking to tapping on The Wizard of Oz, the hills. They went from clicking like we do with our mouse.
I remember, click your
and then
heels
moving
together.
into the tapping on your screen stage. So there's like these weird parallels that you can find.
That's
with Mandela
interesting.
Effect.
So
because we don't click as much as we tap on our screen now, right? And she went from clicking her heels to tapping them. So there's
maybe it'll be touch next. Touch your heels together.
Totally. Oh my God.
Swipe your heels together.
Sweep your heels. Imagine
knock
your
them
heels.
together.
Yeah.
Smack them together.
That's funny.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because Arcturus, if you look it up, it was discovered in 1635.
Right.
So what Bible are you reading there, bud?
Whoa.
But wait a minute. That's the same as couch being in the Bible.
Right.
Before we called them couches. That's
before couch was even a word, right?
Right.
So how could Arcturus be in the Bible? That doesn't make sense now.
So what is the Bible? That's the next thing.
Right.
Because everyone's like, it's the word of God, it's unchangeable. What's written in the Bible is sealed into the sands of time. Even the most sacred texts are changing for us, and there's meanings to that.
I would make the argument that I made at the conference, and I love this argument. Can you show me where God wrote something down?
Well, here's the other thing, though. You got to look at the Bible itself says that the word of God was Jesus. So even the Bible itself says Jesus was the word, not the Bible itself is the word. So I don't know where it's not biblical to say that the Bible is the word of God, though. That's all I'm saying. It's not in the Bible.
And that's what John Kerwin emphasized at the conference last September. I specifically asked him that question because I thought it was so important. So that's exactly, it's a good line of reasoning to follow.
And we can say Jesus hasn't changed, really. I mean, as far as, if he's the word or we're representative of becoming flesh.
We've got a new picture. Did you see the picture of him they developed with artificial intelligence? The reverse. Yeah, they took the shroud and got a really amazingly accurate photorealistic image.
Oh, wow. I got to go see that. I saw the one years and years ago, but
it looks so much better now. Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty well done, I got to say.
The Shroud of Turin?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And see that now that whole, I don't get into the Shroud of Turin, but I get into some in Act 2 of my Mechanics of the Matrix. I talk a lot, something controversial about Jesus and so forth. And what I see in the Akashic records and, what actually was, who was Jesus? Did he actually exist? Was his life based upon someone else that the Holy Roman Empire, what we today know as the Vatican, wanted us to believe a certain way? So that whole situation about Jesus and who he was, I think we're going to get some reveals with that. And my thought is that if we haven't been told the whole truth, don't we want to know? Like I would want to know. So we have the version that the Holy Roman Empire gave us that we know about in the New Testament, and that the Vatican stands by. So we've got that. And then there's possibilities that there are others whose life that Jesus was based off of, and whose life was even more fascinating than Jesus, and didn't have to die when he was 33 years old, didn't have to be nailed to a tree or a cross, as they say now. And there's some fascinating stuff too about, I'm just going to say this real quick because one of my subscribers mentioned this to me. They sent me an email, and as I was reading it, I was like, oh my God. But he was talking about cubes and how the different religions, like Islam has the Mecca, that cube in Kaaba, or however that's called, the location where it's at.
Yep.
Thank you. And then the Hebrews, they put cubes on their forehead and cubes on their arm. And how come the Christians don't have a cube? And actually, they do. And it's right in front of us. And we never even knew what it was. And it's the cross is actually, that's what a cube looks like when it starts to unfold, like the hypercube or the tesseract.
That is correct. That is correct.
Salvador Dali's Corpus Hypercubus painting kind of shows that. And they put Jesus in front of it. It's almost like to prevent the full opening of the cube, like he's there stapled to it. Sorry if I offend anyone by saying that.
It's cardboard, right? It's box. Get a staple.
Yeah. So is it possible that there's more to the story, and how, I believe it was Pope Leo X made a comment that a lot, like the Vatican now says he was just it was satire, but a comment that has been recorded that said this Jesus myth has served us well. So this is a Pope saying this, hundreds of years ago. So it's all things for us to like leave our comfort zone a little bit and just to consider, what if there's more to this reality, and how things could be egregores, and how different factions can gain energy from things. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in my next video. I'll probably talk about it at the Nashville conference as well, but it's not like I mean to trigger anyone or make them like question everything they've been taught of, but I think that it's something that these are the type of things we should start considering, because if words in the Bible are changing, and you got the Matrix in there and the wolf, the lamb, and all these other things, like, I think we should just keep questioning, and like, is it possible that this happened, but it happened in a different way? So it's all like, to me, it's all super fascinating.
That's really neat. I didn't know that the cross, or I didn't think about the cross being the cube and connecting with the other cubes. That's fascinating. I never made that connection.
Yeah, I don't know if Heather if it's easy to find Corpus Hypercubus, that painting by Salvador Dali, to kind of show what I'm talking. And I talk about this. I've talked about this a few times in my videos, but.
And in that picture, he's not stapled to the cross, fortunately. So,
no, he's not. No, there's just like, there's squares, right? There's squares that kind of are holding him there in front of it. But could it be something that's blocking you? So what's a cube? So, that's the next thing too, is that have to do how the reality works, being locked into time, having those right angles that you can't escape from. And even Da Vinci's Vitruvian man, sorry, I'm having a hard time. Vitruvian, thank you. Vitruvian man. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Heather.
There we are.
Yeah. So that's the hype. He's on a hypercube above a chessboard. And the chessboard.
Oh, I thought that was a PlayStation commercial.
So it really does show dimensionality, because that chessboard is like a two-dimensional flatland, and then the hypercube really looks like a hypercube. And then it looks like there's almost a projection of the Jesus Christ from the hypercube.
Right.
Which is a big, huge clue as to what might be going on, and what those strange cryptic words of that Pope might be hinting at.
Yeah. So again, we see the clues everywhere. And even this painting, the Salvador Dali painting, I had never known about it until like a few years ago. As when
it's new for me. Yeah, me too.
So for some people, yeah, it's a Mandela effect. I remember the melting
It's
pot.
not only a cube, it's a series of cubes.
Yeah, that's what a fourth dimensional cube looks like. So yeah, called the hypercube, and it folds
Right.
outward like that. It's hard for our like 3D trained brains to like wrap our heads around this at first.
Mhm.
But when you go to higher dimensions, like if you're a 2-dimensional flatlander, everything is a circle. But if you become a 3-dimensional, that circle can change into a sphere. And it kind of goes on and on. The more awareness you have, the more things you begin to see the depth and how things are not what they appear to be. But then as you go to the higher dimensions, you could look down and see all the other representations. It makes sense. But if you're like at a 2D level, it's really hard to look up and even understand what a 4D level would be, as an example. So
That's so intriguing.
yeah. So yeah, could that
Speaking of,
be the cue that Christians don't even realize that they're?
I think you're right. I think it is.
It seems
Wow,
logical.
we've come a long way from Bible code, right?
I know.
But yeah, it does seem logical, Chris. You are right on that. What does not seem logical is how in the world we jump timelines. Next question, please, comes from Paddock HQ, and again from our mini-sode. Exactly how do you think these timelines are changing, individual and or collectively, driven from a subconscious, disappearing from one timeline and reappearing in another? So how does this work, subconsciously driving these timelines, and what happens to us when we jump?
Such a big, broad question.
I don't know. I think that's the only answer we got. I don't know. Sorry. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Cynthia?
Well, it's like the question includes both individual and also collectively. And so different things are happening, obviously, but on the individual level, sometimes we can notice timelines shifting, going back and forth. I notice flip-flops on an individual personal level. I think they seem like they're more open to individuals, whereas collectively, that would be phenomenal if we all see a flip-flop together, but that can happen too. So the timelines often look like they're merging. They seem like they're branching, splitting apart. The question driven from the subconscious ties in perfectly with the last slide we were just looking at with that hypercube, because when you get into higher dimensionality, the subconscious is a master at that. And so just like that book I keep holding up today, The Operators and Things, the subconscious holds the answers at levels that our conscious mind cannot comprehend. Like we can't quite picture perhaps what a hypercube looks like, but our subconscious knows, and our subconscious can easily navigate those realms and come back with winning numbers for gambling and so forth, which did happen for the author of that book. So yes, the subconscious definitely can access things, which is one of the many reasons I like to ask how good can it get, is to invite the participatory cosmos to show the answer, so that we don't need to do all the mathematics of hypercubes and higher dimensional mathematics and physics, but we can suddenly disappear from one timeline, reappear in another. We can jump to the timeline that we need to be in to be spontaneously healed, to receive prosperity, to connect with someone that we need to talk to. Pretty much anything we need can come through those kind of timeline jumps on an individual level. Collectively, that gets really interesting. I mean, some big stuff happens, and that's the Mandela effect. I should give you guys a chance to chime in.
I was just going to say exactly what Cynthia just said.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. I think a lot of it is, a lot of what we're seeing is almost like, how can I say this? We're not consciously aware of the shifts, but because things are happening either within ourselves or as an outward type change, whether it's the Schumann resonance changing to make us vibrate at a different rate, or whatever cosmic energy or solar energy is coming in, like those type of things are almost like forcing us to raise our frequency and sometimes pushing us into the higher bandwidth timelines. And then for some people, they're purposely trying to navigate to the higher and higher chessboard, so to speak. Because let's say you're on a certain chessboard, like in that picture from Salvador Dali, no matter what square you'd go on to, let's say a certain chessboard, maybe you'd always struggle with abundance. But there's another chessboard that you can attain to where abundance comes easy to you. And no matter what you do, you never worry about anything related to abundance because there's no lack or sacrifice or control that's involved. Everything comes naturally. And one of the ways people are doing that is a frequency practice that I've been part of, type frequency work where you actually can have these distortions removed from you. And as you remove the distortions, it's like the hot air balloons that they take as soon as they get the sandbags off of it, starts lifting more and more into the air. So you can either go slowly, or some people want to really accelerate and they want to like really get into the higher timelines as quickly as possible. And some of this type of frequency work may be key to doing that. And if you're interested in learning more about that frequency work, a month or two ago, I did a podcast with someone named Karen Chung from Spherical Luminosity. And that's one of her specialties. That's one of her gifts. And she does these meditations and goes in and removes these distortion patterns. And a lot of them are not necessarily ours, but they're inherited from our ancestral DNA. It could be something that happened generations ago. And we are born into a family that experienced, whatever it is, wars or famines or et cetera. And then we inherit those type of things in our DNA and then clearing them out. It's like a shortcut to kind of get us to like higher and higher levels. So that's something, because for me, I appreciate shortcuts when they work. I don't like shortcuts that are just shortcuts and you don't really accomplish anything or they set you back. So I wanted to mention that because some people may find that kind of thing appealing to them. So just throwing that out there. That's not a paid promotion.
Nice.
I can validate that is not a paid promotion. We ain't getting paid nothing for that. But I do believe that is everything for the mailbag. Now, I do believe we got some questions here that have been building up. One of the first questions this morning when we started was from Joe Bloor. It's saved over here in the comment. There we go. I left a comment on Chris's last video and on Cynthia's YouTube channel about the electrical engineer Dan Winter. Does the panel know about Mr. Winter and his information? So I will go ahead and say no. Until I read this, I did not. I do have the web page pulled up over here, and I will look at it afterwards.
Okay.
But I don't really know any.
Could you put it in the chat and we could bring up the web page and take a look at it? If you could cut and paste that in for Heather private chat.
So this is.
It reminds me, I don't know if this is the same Dan Winter, but I remember many years ago, someone asked me if I had looked into time travel. And if he's the time travel guy, he is. Okay.
That's kind of what this is looking like. There it is.
Okay. I did hear about it, but I haven't studied it. I guess, is this the Dan Winter that teaches, like he's got classes or?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've not studied this. I'm only peripherally aware of it. So the graphics are gorgeous. Looks like a portal there. I don't know if we can blow that up a bit bigger. And I'm not sure what's going on here. Very interesting. Are you familiar with it, Chris?
I've definitely heard of him, and I've watched parts of some of his videos. He goes very deep, so sometimes it's hard to you got to really pay attention to what he's talking about. I think that he's brilliant. He gets into talking about sacred geometry, what gravity is, our evolving consciousness, like all these type of things. In fact, he would be a good guest to have on the show at some point.
Yeah,
he does do podcasts.
Okay.
So in the future, he might be someone that we want to have on the show and talk to him. But he definitely has a lot of advanced information coming from a physicist point of view, because I think he's a physicist.
Okay.
I'm not sure. He runs something he calls Fractal University.
Right.
So
Says he has great info on crystals, says Brooke Michelle. This is new to me, so I don't really have any answers on this. I just wanted you guys to know it was there, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's from Joe Bloor. He asked about Dan Winters, and he has left messages on both Cynthia and Chris's channel. It looks like to look into this, guys. So
Thank you.
Yeah, Dan entered my radar way back. Like I want to say when I was looking into the 2012 stuff, he was talking about some different stuff way back then. So I've seen him around for a while now.
Cool.
I haven't seen him recently though, so I have to check back in.
Then the next question we have on our list is also from Omega Spark. It says if they can dive 200 feet, how do they avoid the bends? Speaking of the Bajau people.
Right. I figured the Mer people might be has something to do with that spleen. Is that what we were saying?
That's what I'm guessing, yes.
They have a different genetic makeup. They're different than Homo sapiens. They're different.
So that's about the only answer I could really come up with is they're different. Also by Omega Spark, we've answered the question once, but I just want to go ahead and throw it back on screen. Can someone bring some blue bananas and custard apples to Nashville so we can try them? What started out as a joke, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we have sourced these already. I know where to get them. I believe we will be having these in Nashville.
Nice.
If we can help it. That is now a plan. So there you go, Omega. What started as a joke has now become a real thing. Good job. Let's see what else here. That was asking about Cynthia's book. I think this is why I say native Aborigines in North America think the animal is for its life before eating it. Do they do the same for plants? I wonder. Cynthia, do you know about this?
Yes, everything I know about indigenous ways, it's all about sacred respect. Even basket weavers tend to weave privately. You would think if they're weaving a basket, then how can that matter? Oh, it totally matters. The whole thing is a prayer. Only the people that feel called to do it become basket weavers. And so obviously if they're harvesting grasses to make baskets, they'll be doing the same thing when it's for food as well. So the whole thing is very, very much a communication, heartfelt, soul-felt. And so it's a selection process so that you're asking the plant, which part may I take? Is it okay? So you're getting permission. It's not like a mechanical harvesting where everything is run through a machine, but instead it's very, very selective, just like it would be for a hunt where an animal is selected or considered to be offered. And it's often there'd be dreaming before a hunt and dreaming before gathering as well. That's everything I know about it. It's extremely sentient and conscious. It's not just waste and throw things away and don't use what you've destroyed and all that. It's very different than the way we tend to mechanistically do things.
Right. The materialist society that we've gotten into and don't give thanks really for anything. At least most people don't. I try to when I can, but that's a good question though. It's something that most people wouldn't think of. They give thanks for the life of the animals. Do they give such for the plants? And it appears that is also a thing. Chris, Shane, anything to add to that particular question before we move on?
Yeah, I could say something controversial.
Okay, no. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Some people may want to tune out for this, but humans are not the top of the food chain. So as above, so below. So because we consume animals, there are other beings. I won't go into those details where humans are involved. So do these other beings, do they give thanks over, if they have breeding programs or whatever they're doing? It's another way of looking at it that I just wanted to mention. A lot of people aren't ready to hear that. And I think all that stuff is being eradicated. It's not going to be happening anymore, but it's something that should be considered, that it's not new. It's when you eat an animal, you're giving your consent for it to happen on the other end to humans. So again, controversial. Sorry if I upset anyone, but these are the these are interesting things about the reality and what happens in the unseen to some extent that we're not aware of or we're not told about. So,
You say we're not the top of the food chain, and I would agree because I know a lion can both outrun and eat me. So
that is true. That is true. That is true also. Yeah.
if I'm the top of the food chain, I should be able to outrun, outeat, outdo everything. I shouldn't be on their menu if I'm the top. So yeah, I would argue you're right, Chris. We are not.
So we need pet lions then? Can they take down our predators?
What we need is pet dinosaurs, but we ain't gotten
Right.
there yet. I'm still waiting on that. They did find a dragon a little while back, it looks like. But next question. Paisley Lorsagway. Lord, forgive me if I screwed that one up. Has anyone had super deja vus? So my husband's friend said he was going to help move house for a friend who had a stroke. She swears he told her that 2 years ago.
Wow.
So has anybody experienced super deja vus?
Well, I mean, if you count these deaths like Oliver Sacks that I read the whole article about his death a week before he died. You could call that a deja vu, but it was so realistic. And to me, that was totally a personal reality shift, Mandela effect. So this sounds more like the personal kind where someone says something and then it happens again. I've had that happen real time, like repeating events within a few minutes, sometimes. Not within a couple years, but that could easily happen.
Yeah, not so much even super deja vus, but just deja vus in general. Like I had 2 deja vus in the last week, and I'm like, and I actually said it, I'm getting deja vu right now. So I just, the scene, who I was with, what they were saying, like, I remember this happened before. So getting those glitches in the matrix of us remembering what happened in another timeline.
It's been a couple months since I've had something like that happen, but I have had an experience, like I say, a couple months ago. But I wouldn't even call it a super deja vu, just a deja vu.
Yeah, the deja vus are definitely becoming more intense.
Shane, anything to add before we move on?
Nope.
All right. Last but not least, for our viewer questions of the day, Omega Spark coming in one more time. I'm loving the questions, Omega. I like the fact that you come up with so many questions. Like, that's me right there. I'm always questioning everything. How does Mandela effects on geology affect ley lines, folks?
Yeah, well, this is a good question. We Shane and I did a show for Open Tables. Remember that? It was with the guy that does the dowsing of the dragon lines. And he talked about how these lines are expanding and expanding and expanding. It ties in with what we were saying about the energy just being just epic right now. Like it's just like even the baseline is way up above anything it's ever been before. So that's totally happening. And so I think that the tie-in with the Mandela effects, with the ley lines and the energy increase, is we would expect, just like I think a lot of us have been looking at the Schumann resonance and all that. As the energies rise, then we're seeing a lot more Mandela effects. I think that's what the question's getting at, hopefully.
So say North America's moved this way, South America's moved way over here from where it was on this ley line. Now it's over on this ley line.
Oh, I see.
New
Cool.
Zealand used to be up here. Now it's over here on this ley line. How does this affect the energies of the ley lines being the things differently placed?
Thank you. Okay, that's different than what his name is, Rory Duff, and he did not address that factor. Oh my gosh, that is wild. Yeah, I don't. That would take an educational jump just to get a geology expert to be on board with us. That first of all, this is happening.
Yeah, do you guys remember Dale Dufay?
Yes.
Yes.
And how like all of his like YouTube videos, I don't know if they're still there anymore, but he would always talk about geology.
Terrors of the Milky Way.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Terrors of the Milky Way.
The Milky Way. One of the things he would talk about too is that from what he was seeing, we were on super dwarf Earths, like
Yes.
Earths were bigger before,
Yes.
and now they appeared to be smaller than they were. So that would affect the ley lines too, just the size of the planet itself. So there's a lot of these interesting things happening with ley lines, and what are ley lines? Do they mimic what's in our own bodies? So as we change, is the earth changing and the ley lines changing, and they're turning into dragon lines? So yeah, these are all really good questions. And I know Omega Spark recently went to an island near Iceland that was that Mandela Effect island that never was there before. I forget what it was called. So I know that Omega Spark definitely is into these type of things, and will literally go and visit places and get the downloads and go to these different areas that were never there before in
part of the new earth.
They can come on over and visit Nashville in November.
Yeah, no, actually, that, you know who that is? That's Tom, who's going to be one of our volunteers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you guys.
Okay, I know who you're talking. I know exactly who you're talking about now. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I remember Tom. Yes, sir.
yeah. So he'll be there in Nashville, and he was
excellent.
Yeah.
And that is going to conclude the questions and answer for the day, ladies and gentlemen. Next slide, please. I do believe at this point we've got the thank yous and that's what I thought. A very special, very, very special thank you to our current and new Patreon sponsors. You guys are what really, really do fund IMEC. The constant monthly sponsorships you guys give are really what help us do the things we do, what help us come on here each month and be able to give you guys shows, what help us do the in-person shows, helps us fund all the events and activities that we're able to accomplish. This is all funded by you guys, for you guys, of you guys. And mainly the Patreons is where a majority of these funds come from. So a special shout out and thank you to all of our amazing patrons. By the way, guys, you have a new green room video headed your way here quite shortly. I would say in a week or so, probably. We're pretty busy on this end. Gold level every year. Super thanks to Jody, Colleen Learley, Stephanie Clay, James, JD Peterson, Paul Ellis. Super special shout out to Bo Kim, #1 investor in IMEC. Allison Eastman, Gail Brown, Teresa Richards, Belinda Anders, and Lori Glasner. Our silver level over 6 months, Laura Bortman, Jojo Williams, Vit Hartman, Lisa Henderson, Laura Monson, Kathleen Wright, William, Sylvia Bondurant, Ann Gaynor, and Lene Harlia. And last but not least, our bronze level newcomers. Welcome to the party, Andrew Christie, Karen Kite, and Kathleen Downing. Woo, woo. Glad to have all of you guys along with us. Once again, Patreon has a brand new green room video coming very shortly that we did just record. It's got a great conversation. I know you guys are going to definitely enjoy it. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Oh, there was a question of just the title of the book again. Operators and Things, Barbara O'Brien, 1958. So it's out of print, but it's a good one. And I think it's freely available because it is out of print and the copyright sort of expired. But there are some, you can buy it on Amazon also, like the new versions that are hardcover or what have you.
That is really awesome. I got to get me a copy of that. I really do. That seems like a fascinating story. Like I said, my best friend all my life, she dealt with a lot of those issues. So I personally secondhand had to help deal with a lot of it. It really fascinated and intrigued me because, and I'm going to leave this on this note here. Schizophrenics. When it comes to Mandela Effect, it's as real to me that it used to be Berenstein as it is that it says stay now. It's as real to me that the thinker had his hand one way instead of how it is now. That doesn't exist in our reality, but to me, that was real. Now, what am I getting at? To schizophrenics, they might look at a dumpster and see a dragon. To them, that's just as real as you, me, or Shane sitting here right now. Right? That's just as real as the sun shining outside. That's just as real as any Mandela effect is to us, right? Just because we don't see it, just because we can't interact with whatever they're interacting with, doesn't make it any less circumstantial and real to them. To their reality, to their brain, they're looking at a dragon or whatever the case may be, a monster, whatever it is, whether we can see it or not. And again, we can translate this over to the Mandela effect. A lot of us see something that we swear is not the way we remember it. Other people looking at us, calling us the schizophrenic. I'd never seen that, so that's not the way it was. I didn't see that, so it don't matter. But that's not the case. We know there's something going on here. I find the connection between the schizophrenia and the paranormal researchers and paranormal people who really see what's going on and the reactions I just find it so correlating. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because it ties in with the NPC question. That's the thing quality. And then the operator would be like the shaman or the interdimensional being. And so it's extremely pertinent. We just use different language, but taking a look at the way the inner framework and the lattice work or framework of the mind itself can change, that's something that we're also looking at. We're totally looking at that with ascension, the ascension symptoms. What's happening? How are we becoming more interdimensional? How are we moving into that subconscious? Hopefully without losing our minds. So reading a book from a woman who went there and then came out and rebuilt her mind and survived the whole process intact. And I think she came out better. I think that's remarkable and noteworthy.
Oh, 100%. You don't see people normally come back out of schizophrenia. That's what's even more fascinating about this story that you have here.
Yeah.
Next slide, please, ladies and gentlemen, because we are running out of time. I know I am. Special thank you once again to our current and new Patreon sponsors. If you would like to become a Patreon sponsor, ladies and gentlemen, merely pull your QR code on your reader on your phone out, hit that QR code right there, and it should take you on your way to becoming a member for Patreon. We've got a number of different groups, the 777, the 1111. I believe we have a 444, if I'm not mistaken. We very specifically set them on those numbers because, they're awesome. Mark your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. Next slide, please. Mark your calendars. There is absolutely no show in October or November. October, we're getting ready to gear up for that conference coming up, ladies and gentlemen. There will be so much going on. We will not have an opportunity to do a show in October, so you can clear your calendars for that. But November 7th to the 10th, ladies and gentlemen, Nashville, Tennessee, we will be having the official International Mandela Effect Conference, which means there will not be a show on the month of November. So October and November will not have an open tables this year, ladies and gentlemen. No open tables.
We'll have a real open tables. You guys should come and see us in person.
But we'll
have a huge open table.
We'll be back for open tables on December 18th. So we will return.
That is correct. The last one of the year, the last one of the season, the rounding out episode, December 18th, Wednesday, December 18th. Make sure you mark your calendars for that. That will be the last episode of the season, last episode of the year here at IMEC until we pick up next year with a brand new season. Brooke Michelle says my birthday is that December 18th. Did we land the date on one of our members' birthdays? That would be absolutely awesome.
We spoiled the surprise. Sorry, Brooke.
Surprise, sort of.
Yay. Nice.
Last but not least, I know that everyone here on the panel is excited. I know you guys have heard me say it 100 times today. I'm going to say it one more time. November 7th to the 10th, Nashville, Tennessee, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you get your tickets. Could I have that original poster from the very beginning of the slides up on screen real quick, if you don't mind, producer? I'll go ahead and give her a minute to take care of that. There we are. Wow, she's quick. Look at that.
You get to meet her in person too. And please consider this our personal invitation to you right there. We're talking to you. We'd love to see you with us. Please come. And it would mean the world to us. So love to see you in person. Hope you can make it.
And you're right, Cynthia. They will get to meet the enigmatic producer, Heather, back there that never comes on screen unless it's an absolute emergency. But you guys will have a chance to meet her for the first time. Of course, Cynthia, myself, Chris, and Shane will be there without question. We also have people like Lee Allen Bogus of Crazy's Lab YouTube channel. Guys, I like this guy. I really, really like this guy. Cannot wait to hear what he has to say. Pippa Ona. I'm telling you, this woman's going to be reading me the phone book. You think I'm kidding. I'm not. Dr. Charles Labedo, a PhD, who's going to give his scientific research into the Mandela Effect. I am so excited about this one. Trish Lesage. This is going to be a really, really great talk. Natasha Sinkovich. Ladies and gentlemen, Candace Craw Goldman. How does that name even get said without fanfare and an intro song, right? She is truly a legend in this type of research. So this will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I guarantee you. Plus our opening speakers, Bill McKenna and Liz Larson. Folks, this is a conference that you definitely will regret missing out on if you're not able to show up. November 7th to the 10th, $185 all 3 days. The full event is the price of the ticket. We've got hotel rooms available, Hilton hotel rooms for an incredible price. You're never going to pay this much for a Hilton room again. Nowhere near this low you're ever going to pay for a Hilton hotel room again. How do you get that special price? Just use the code IMEC24, IMEC24 for that special price, ladies and gentlemen. We want to see all of you guys in Nashville, Tennessee. Make this the biggest, the best Mandela Effect conference we've had so far. At least that's what we're trying to do. Ladies and gentlemen, with that said, on behalf of Cynthia Sue Larson, Shane Robinson of Unbiased and On the Fence, Cynthia Sue Larson of Reality Shifters, Christopher Onatra, you know him as the Quantum Businessman. I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. You've been listening to the International Mandela Effect Conference Open Tables for the month of September. On behalf of all these folks, ladies and gentlemen, remember, until next time we meet, together we go. Together we grow. Bye, everybody. Love you guys.
Love you.